Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year, and welcome to the first full council meeting of 2026. Can I start off by welcoming our new councillor, Councillor Milosh, recently elected, and I hope you're going to enjoy engaging in our discussions this evening. Okay. Couple of reminders before we begin. ASA will be recording people's requests to speak, and I will not confuse the matter by acknowledging your requests, otherwise we'll get out of order. Other couple of reminders. Can I ask you please to speak into your microphones clearly, and also, and this is a vain hope, avoid repetition if possible, but we'll try. Okay, item 1. Let's get back to the beginning of the agenda. Are there any apologies for absence?
We have apologies from Councillor Caroline Corbyn.
Thank you. Are there any public questions or statements?
None have been received, Mr. Chairman.
Any councillors' questions or statements?
None have been received.
And can we acknowledge the minutes of the previous meeting as an accurate record? Yes, accepted. Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest?
None received.
Any dispensations?
None received, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well then we'll move on to Chairman's announcements, and I'll try and show the lead here by being as brief and concise as possible. Since the most recent full council meeting on the 10th of November, I've attended approximately 30 events, including church services, Christmas charity events and opening ceremonies. And I concur with the information that my wife provided from Councillor Hocking that he now knows all the words to all the Christmas carols that are performed in the services around the city. The other thing I want to talk about is the Twinning Association. As you well know, I was approved the opportunity to visit Nivelle, who on my visit expressed very strong desire to twin with Salisbury for a variety of reasons. The outcomes of that visit were followed up by officers who have established contact with Nivelle to ascertain whether they are committed to the Twinning Association process. And that process will be in 3 phases. The first phase will be agreement at full council from all the councillors on the 9th of March, whether we actually proceed. So nothing will happen at this stage, and between now and then, information will be made available. Phase 2, should that be approved, will be discussion on the implications of twinning, updating signage, etc., etc. And phase 3 will be the application for funding, which is substantial when you are twinned as 3 cities as opposed to 2. But we're getting ahead of ourselves by discussing that. It needs to go through the process of approval, full council first of all. Just to follow things up, I attended the Christmas social events of the Xanton and Sant Twinning Association and informally made them aware of the approaches made by Nivelle to also join them. Many of them are familiar with the Twinning Association in Nivelle, which isn't obviously twinned with us, but they are twinned with other cities. So more about that to come. That concludes my announcements, and we move on to administration leader announcements.
Thank you, Chair. I too will keep this one brief. Firstly, I'd like to be the second one to welcome our newest councillor. Really pleased and excited to have you here. I just really wanted to say a big thank you to all officers and councillors who worked so hard on this budget setting process. It is the main event of the meeting tonight, and it's been an awful lot of work from an awful lot of people, officers and councillors, and I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you to everyone. So that's it from me. Thank you all.
Having warned everybody that they should do it. Any questions for the Leader of the Administration? Okay, then in which case move on to item 9, which is changes to committee memberships, which I believe that has been circulated to all councillors. Would you like to go through it, Janine?
Just to remind everybody that the reason we're bringing it here tonight is following the by-election we had in November. That slightly changed the weightings for the parties for the committees. All the leaders of each party provided the changes. However, we are just awaiting one confirmation for planning, please.
Councillor Sam Charleston.
Thank you. I would like to confirm Councillor Victoria Charleston to be on planning, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
I would like to confirm Councillor Victoria Charleston to sit on planning, please, where it says one Lib Dem TBC. I would like to see her.
Okay, thank you. Right. Item 10, referral of committee meeting minutes. Can I expect that everybody has read the minutes and that we can agree them in one block? Or do we need to, is there anything arising from the minutes that we need to discuss before we vote on that? I take it, Councillor Riddle?
It's not a committee minutes thing specifically, but I did just want to report something as from the neighbourhood planning point of view.
Okay. Are there any other issues arising from the minutes other than the item from the planning? Okay, would you like to?
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure members are aware, it will appear in the Journal on Thursday, that the government inspectors looking into Wiltshire Council's local plan review have told the council to stop pinning their hopes on for housing development in the Salisbury area on the very vague plans to build a new community nearby. They say there's no evidence that a suitable site could be found and developed within the local plan period, which currently runs to 2038, and they've ordered the council to drop the idea from the plan. They've also criticised Wiltshire for sticking rigidly to its policy of sharing out development between 4 housing management areas based around the main towns in the county, accepting that some of the sites in Salisbury area cannot be deliverable until a local wastewater treatment works are upgraded. What this means, and why I'm telling people, is because it means that more housing that can be developed more quickly will have to be found elsewhere, and that will include the planners having to look again at local sites that they might have previously ruled out. So everybody needs to be aware that that could be coming. And they're also going to recalculate the period covered by the plan and extend it to 2042, which is bound again to increase significantly the housing development target, and it will require updated transport modelling, viability and infrastructure work. The inspectors were also highly critical at of the inadequacy of employment land plans for Wiltshire. So all this new work has got to be done as fast as possible, and they are demanding a response from Wiltshire by the end of this month, setting out a timetable for its completion. So it's a massive headache all in all for Wiltshire Council, but we should all be very concerned, not least about what happens in terms of development proposals if it doesn't get sorted out in time. So I thought it was important to give all members a heads up. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Thank you, Annie. Well, there's matters arising from the minutes, which we noted in the minutes. Thank you. Can we take a vote on agreeing the minutes of all the committee meetings? Thank you. Right. Item 11. Nominations of Mayor-elect 26-27 and Deputy Mayor-elect 26-27. Do we have nominations for the Mayor-elect?
So I'd like to nominate Al Bayliss, our current Deputy Mayor, to be Mayor-elect.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Councillor Hock. So Councillor Bayliss proposed and seconded. Any other nominations? Okay, thank you. Nominations for Deputy Mayor. Councillor Sam Charleston.
Thank you. I would like to nominate Councillor Victoria Charleston for Deputy Mayor.
Nomination for Victoria Charleston. Anyone to second that? Councillor Paul Sample. Councillor Paul Sample. Paul Sample. Yeah. Okay. Item 12, committee calendar. Again, this has been circulated in advance. Any questions or comments on that schedule of meetings? Okay, if there are none, then I move that we accept the proposed schedule for meetings for the year 2026. Okay. Thank you. Do we vote on this? All those in favour? Accepted. Thank you. Item 13, the budget monitoring report. Our RFO. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors. I'm conscious that not everyone was at the Finance Committee last week, and there's this sort of automatic progression of Finance Committee looks at the budget monitoring and then the budget proposals, and then it comes to full council. So apologies to those of you who weren't at Finance Committee last week. I can just quickly summarise what we've got here in the budget monitoring report. So at Finance Committee, we were looking at the period 7 to the end of October budget monitoring report, because that was just what we could get out in time before Christmas. We've now advanced by an extra month. So what you've got in front of you this evening is 8 months into the 12-month year to the end of November. Those of you at the Finance Committee, and for those of you who weren't, I can update you and say that the P7 position to the end of October showed just over £1 million underspend variance. And as you can see, a month later on this report, in paragraph 1.3, we're looking at £806,000 variance, which is a very large variance in absolute terms, but is roughly £200,000 lesser variance than there was at the end of October. And that reflects mostly what officers have been doing in terms of budget profiling. It's not that we've suddenly spent £200,000. It's really that we've beginning to get to grips with the budget profiling, which has been the main cause of most of the variances that we reported to you in the past. So that's real progress. In terms of what it means for our prediction for the end of the year, it's unchanged. So as it also says in paragraph 1.3 of the report, the Chief Exec and I predict that there'll be £400,000 underspend by the end of the year. And when we come on to the budget proposal separately on the agenda, you'll see that's the figure that we've proposed to the political groups, and that's what's been brought into the, incorporated into the proposed budget. So that's all consistent. I won't go through what's quite a succinct report. It's the same format as usual. Because the variance has come down, the numbers of large variances over £50,000 have also reduced in number, and they're set out, the explanations for those variances are set out in paragraphs 4.4 to 4.6. And there's one project variance, what used to be called the capital programme, in paragraph 5.2. All of those explanations are variances that have appeared previously, both at full council and at Finance Committee. So I won't go over them again now, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Do you have any questions for Steve? No, in that case, I request that we note your report. Thank you very much, Steve. Right. Item 14, the budget. Before we begin, I am aware that there may well be people wishing to propose amendments to the budget. And having discussed this with our CEO before the meeting, he has some indication of people that will want to discuss amendments. And to avoid confusion, we will take the amendments one at a time and everyone will have the opportunity to have their input and discuss the amendments as we work through. But we don't want to get into the complexities of amending amendments. We'll take one at a time. Asa, would you like to indicate who is proposing an amendment to the budget?
So, Chair, I don't know if the RFO, as the report is in his name, wants to come up and just give us a few words on the sustainability or otherwise of this particular budget. Before then, Chair, I would suggest handing over to the leader for any comments that he may have on his group budget. I'm then aware that Councillor Riddle may want to chip in at that point to mention around councillor allowances.
Okay, thank you, Chair, Chief Exec, councillors. It's the standard report that it's been the format that I think you've seen before you throughout the history of Salisbury City Council, including last year. So I won't go through all of the sections. The main sections are the council tax increase. There's a little bit on tax base in paragraph 3.2. That's good or bad news, depending on how you look at it, but there was an increased house building in this past year compared to the previous year, and that's resulted in an increase in the tax base more than we normally see. So that means that the precept is also adjusted accordingly. The council tax section sets out a 4.99% increase, which I'm sure the administration want to speak to, but it's as per the position that was resolved by full council in January last year. There is one difference between previous year's reports and this report, which is in section 7 and specifically paragraph 7.2, following the Wiltshire Council remuneration panel, where they've asked all parish councils in Wiltshire to consider whether or not each parish council is still content with the level of its parish councillor allowance. So that's just an open-ended question for you, but it also means that there's an extra recommendation for you to decide yes or no whether you want to change the current parish councillor allowance or not. In terms of the sustainability, achievability, deliverability of the budget, yes, both from a technical RFO point of view and I think on behalf of the senior management team and the chief exec, all senior officers are content that this is deliverable. Happy to take any technical questions, but presumably over to you for political debate.
Any questions for Steve about the process? In which case we move over to Councillor Charleston.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Steve. Tonight, I am proud to present to Council the administration's budget for 2026-27. This is a budget that does exactly what it sets out to do. It protects services, it plans for the future, and it puts this council back onto the stable financial footing that a few years ago felt a very long way away. After some challenging years, this council is now finally in a genuinely strong financial position, and this budget, I believe, is the clearest evidence of that. So let me start with the foundations. Thanks to the continued hard work of officers and members, as we've previously heard, the underspend from last year is now forecast at £400,000. That means we will have completed the job started by the previous administration. We have replenished our general reserves to an acceptable and responsible level. Now that matters, not just because it's good accounting, but because it means we're no longer lurching from crisis to crisis. We have stability, and crucially, we can start to rebuild our capacity to make sure we never find ourselves in that position ever again. I believe this budget marks the point where we move from repairing the foundations to building something sustainable on top. The budget's not just about keeping the lights on, it's about planning properly for the years ahead. So, for example, we have included £700,000 across years 3 through 5 for future pressures, hopefully for exciting projects. Hopefully this turns out to be more than just another rainy day fund. I'm hoping we see more splash pads than poultry crosses. £525,000 for the crematorium burner replacement. This is essential, unavoidable work, and it's extremely responsible, I believe, to start planning for that now. I'm very well aware that this and the previous item could well be us handing a future council under a potentially different political leadership a large pot of money to do with whatever they wish. But this certainly still remains the correct and responsible thing to do. On the poultry cross, there's £400,000 earmarked for the poultry cross. We are aware that costs may come in differently. We are aware we may be able to acquire grant funding from other places, but £400,000 feels like a good starting off point. resident at last week's Finance Committee rightfully asked questions about this and some of the other items we discussed. And I was very happy to talk it through with him. And I'll be very happy to do so tonight if we need to. There did used to be 4 crosses, as I mentioned last week. The Poultry Cross is the last one standing, and I'm absolutely determined that we keep and care for this vital piece of Salisbury's heritage. We've included £250,000 over the medium-term financial plan towards the Salisbury Playhouse's refurbishment project. This will hopefully contribute towards the matched funding for this project and will allow Wiltshire Creative to continue to deliver their truly excellent and remarkable work. I have said it before that regional producing theatres like the Playhouse are incredibly rare, and they deserve our support if we want to keep the British theatre scene alive and well. And £50,000 earmarked for the Salisbury 800 event. Next year marks the 800th anniversary of our charter, which is a huge and monumental moment for our city, and something we should be very proud, again, to support and celebrate. I don't believe any of us are likely to be here for the 900 or the 1,000-year celebration, so let's celebrate while we can. So I think this is what good grown-up financial planning looks like. We're not hoping that our problems go away. We're trying to deal with them before they become crises. Or, in the case of the poultry costs, we're dealing with them as soon as we learn about the crisis. This budget also invests directly in the quality of life in our city. The Guildhall ceiling, I believe, is finally being fixed after being kicked down the road for far too long. We're including £40,000 per year for play park fixes and repairs. This isn't the flashiest item, but it's extremely exciting for those of us with small children. We certainly intend that the parks in Bishopdown and the Friary are amongst the first to be looked at, as these are in quite sorry states. On play parks, the accessibility budget has increased to a total of £50,000 per year, because accessibility is not optional. This was a bid or a request from Diggs, and one I was personally thrilled to be able to support and include. And £280,000 for the refurbishment of the marketplace toilets, an output of a really excellent cross-party working group, which again shows how well we can work together. Following some lessons learned around cyber security, we're including £15,000 a year uplift to keep our residents' data secure. I think I mentioned this before, but we saw plenty of cyber attacks during the Dawn Sturgis inquiry, and it certainly makes that need very clear. And investment in our CCTV systems with a rolling programme for replacement rather than waiting for them to fail. And additionally, some staffing increases to improve on service delivery. I think this is practical and visible, resident-focused investment. I think it's also important to be honest about what's not in this budget. In the bids and savings, there were several requests or several bids were taken out, but hopefully it's not the end of the conversation. We took them out of the budget because we wanted them to be looked at by the SIL working group. A couple of examples, aren't no means exhaustive, were that path along Cold Harbour Lane, and also a request for some calisthenics equipment and outdoor gym in Wyndham Park, again, amongst others. And I do want to be really clear, this is not out of the budget. Well, they are out of the budget, but they're not out of the conversation. They are to be hopefully dealt with by SIL working group and returned in due course. As has been mentioned, not included any discussion around councillor allowances. I felt that this should be debated properly and openly by the full council. I appreciate everyone here gets their chance to have their say on every element of this budget. I think it's right that we allow an amendment to have a full discussion on this quite specific and potentially contentious issue. This budget was initially set on the assumption that we would achieve a zero surplus this year. However, given the start of this speech, the conversation we previously had, the report and the last item on the agenda, that we are looking at that £400,000 underspend. Given that underspend, I think it is right that we allow ourselves to spend a little more of that money on some good positive things for the city. Having seen that Conservative budget proposal last week and following a long conversation with Councillor Suddards, which I very much appreciated, to go through their budget, I will be pleased to take one or two elements from that proposal as well. I think I mentioned last week, additionally, that we'd be looking at amending, having listened to some of the comments, I will be asking for my colleague Councillor Foster here to propose an amendment around the increased Christmas lights provision, and as I say, we shall see what other amendments come out in the course of this conversation. So what does it all cost? All of this is delivered for a 4.99% increase in year one, For a Band D household, that amounts to £19 additional per year. That's 39 pence approximately per week for a Band D household, and a 3.99% increase in year 2. And we're building in 0% increases in the following 3 years. And I think that's important because at that point, the forecasting is suggesting that our reserve position and indeed our nice rainy day pot is looking extremely healthy. It feels it will be inappropriate to be raising the precept further. So, members, this council, I believe, is finally back in a strong position after some quite difficult and challenging years. I believe this is a stable budget, a responsible budget, and a forward-looking budget. It protects services, invests in the city, and it puts the city council back where it should be, planning confidently for the future. I hope you all vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Before we move on to maybe other issues, can we have an indication of some amendments that have been proposed already?
I think at this stage, Councillor, it might be worthwhile taking Councillor Riddle
Okay.
to discuss members' allowances and then perhaps move on to some of the other amendments if that was agreeable. So,
Yeah. Councillor Riddle, would you like to speak to the issue of
Yes.
councillors' allowances?
Yes. I'd like to propose that councillors' allowances are raised to £1,500 a year, so that's approximately doubled. This is not as high as the maximum £1,980 for parish councillors, which was recommended by Wiltshire Council's independent remuneration panel last year. This figure, which is before tax, takes into account the fact that the allowance has not been increased in 17 years since 2009. I'm also proposing that in subsequent years, the allowance is automatically increased by the same percentage as the National Pay Award for staff, which would have the desirable effect of taking the issue out of the political arena. We all know the difficulties that all parties face in recruiting candidates for election. Cost must be a deterrent for some people, whether they are young parents who might need a babysitter or residents whose health conditions might mean they need to travel to meetings by taxi. And Wiltshire Council's proposed extension of parking charges will add to the costs of every councillor who drives to our evening meetings and to our civic events at weekends. So this increase should ensure, and this is my aim, that nobody who wants to be a councillor and to serve their community need be out of pocket. And there is the other point I should make really is that nobody has to take it if they don't want to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Riddle. First of all, do we have a seconder for that proposal? Councillor Hock? Right. Councillor Rimmer.
thank you very much, Chair. I'm, to be honest, stunned that we're even discussing this because we're in a situation where people are struggling to afford the general cost of living. People are struggling. People have a very dim view of politicians in general. And us talking about doubling our allowance just seems to be completely misreading the mood. And if this were to happen, I think the people of Salisbury would be extremely upset about it. I mean, I'm going to say this again when we talk about the budget, but we have to remind ourselves that we're a parish council. I know we, have debates about grand things like nuclear disarmament, like we did in the last council, but we are a parish council, and do the people of Salisbury see the benefit for the enormous precept they pay compared to anywhere else in the country? I would argue that they don't. Should we be saying to the people of Salisbury, we want you to double the amount of money that you have to pay to us? No, we shouldn't. And I just think it beggars belief that this is even being discussed, to be honest with you.
Thank you, Councillor Rimmer. Any other comments from councillors? Councillor Rideout.
I agree, Annie, that it's absolutely vital that anybody who wants to be a councillor is not put off by not being able to afford things. But I think a much better way of doing it would be in the same way as any other business, that we claim expenses. That way, those who are needing to spend on car parking or on taxis or on babysitters could do so. And those who don't wouldn't have to. It then wouldn't have to be a flat rate. When I queried this previously, some people suggested that that would be onerous on officers. Having checked with the RFO last year, he didn't seem to think it would be. So I think there are other ways around it. Rather than doing a flat, everybody gets this amount to either choose to take it or not. It would be much fairer.
Thank you, Councillor Ryder. Any other comments on this item? Councillor Dalton.
Turned it on and off again. Thank you, Chair. I think the problem here is that the allowance hasn't raised in 17 years. If it had, have gone up with officers' increases, you know, the RPI or the CPI or whatever it is each year, we'd probably be about the 12 or 1300 mark, and nobody would be complaining about that anyway. It's the fact that we've stayed still at 750, virtually been forgotten about for 17 years. But it is right to talk about it. I disagree actually with my colleague next to me that, you know, why are we talking about this, blah, blah, blah. And it always is a sore subject, because everybody out there thinks that councillors are on the make and most councillors are useless, and, you know, but come election time, the people that say that never stand for election, do they? But, you know, it's a sore subject. It does need to be tackled, and I'm glad that Annie and Attical have raised it tonight. It's the right meeting to raise it at, to be honest. And it needs to be tackled sensibly, without political argument in a way, and, you know, to get us to the right level, and then go up each year with officers' increases or RPI, CPI, or whatever it is, which is exactly what Wiltshire Council does.
Councillor Hocking.
Chair, thank you. I'm sort of sat a bit on the fence with this, but I'm sort of aligning myself a bit with Councillor Dalton. This is one of those really thorny issues that comes up every now and again. I mean, at the moment, the allowance is pretty much nothing. It's about 65 quid a month or something. Now, if you do your job as a proper councillor, divide 60 quid by minimum wage, for argument's sake, you're doing about 6 hours a month work for the council. Now, most of us probably do quite a lot more than that. So are we volunteers or are we paid effectively by our residents? It's a difficult one to make. There is a strong sense out there with the public will say, you know, councillors voting more money from themselves. They're just on, you know, they've got their noses in their trough. They're owning it for themselves. Well, there is an element where people can argue that, but also a lot of people give up a lot of time pretty much voluntarily to represent their communities. And let's not forget, one of the things that we do in this meeting is we decide how much tax our residents are going to pay legally. And if we don't, they can end up in jail. So that's a pretty big responsibility. That's one of the responsibilities that I carry with me, probably the biggest one, both as a city and a Wiltshire councillor. Yeah, that's something that we have to do. And that takes some responsibility, and you've got to be able to stand up and justify your decision. So all that stuff are things that you've got to do. If you want to attract younger people, and when we get it at county more than at city, yeah, we're always told your allowances are far too much, blah, 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 you should do it for nothing. It's still, even though that I'm not part of the administration anymore, I'm still probably doing 2.5 days a week as a Wiltshire councillor on casework and stuff and all the rest of it. So if you take away any incentive to do any of that, the only people that you'll get sat around the table are rich people or retired people. So they've either got lots of money and don't have to work, or they're really old. Now, if you then go back out to the public and say you're going to get really old people or really rich people, they go, well, that's not fair. We want some young people. Where's everybody else? What about women? What about this? What about that? You know, and of course they won't do it because they've got to work. And if you work 5 days a week, you haven't got time really to do a proper job. And what we're sat around here, add that to the unitary thing, I probably couldn't do it properly and still have a home life. I'd probably be divorced. So there is a question to be had and a conversation to be had about this. Cost of living crisis probably makes this meeting not the one to do it. Because we do have to consider what's going on out there in the wider world at the moment, and it is difficult. So for me personally, I think we should have the conversation, but now's probably not the right time. Let the country get itself back on its feet. If it does that first, then we can have a conversation about allowances. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hocking. Councillor Nettle.
Thank you very much, Chair. No, I think that I agree with Councillor Dalton and Councillor Hocking, and really grateful this has been brought to our attention. It's so easy to say, well, not now. We've been saying that for the last 17 years, and so that's why it's never increased. I was fortunate to be asked by the independent review body to ask what I thought, and I said in line these we should raise the amount of money by inflation, because I think at least then it says something about the work that we do. I also suggested to the review panel that there should be a differentiation. So when I was leader, and I'm sure it's the same now, no less the same now, is you can spend up to 3 days a week here looking through things, reading things, advising, being discussed, and also being invited to other meetings on behalf of the council, just as the mayor does, but you are there representing the city council. And I felt actually that the leader should, whatever the weighting was going to be, should receive a slightly higher sum for that time that the leader was in post. To just confirm exactly what's been sent, there's a lot of charges. Some of these meetings are not in Salisbury. You have to go out to, and so there's a travel, to look into. So I do agree this isn't the right time to propose or support it, but I would like to see us have some index, like Councillor Dalton has suggested, that it does go up and isn't static for another 17 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hock.
Thank you, Chairman. I echo what Councillor has said, especially Councillor Dalton. I think one of the things we need to realize also, a lot of us are okay, we're happy with that, whatever we are getting. But importantly, I stood as a councillor because I have the love for the city. So money wasn't the issue. But over the 12 years, I've spoken to a lot of the people, and a lot of the young people and others when I speak to. It's very difficult to see there is not many incentives. So by having a little increase, I think that gives other people some sort of small motivation as like they to join the council. At least they're not going to be out of pocket, because we do have a lot of meetings and having to pay for the parking charge and all the other bits and pieces. I think it is the right place to speak to. And that is the only reason I've seconded the motion, because discussion is quite important and it's needed. A lot of us okay, but I think we have to think about the future generation if we're going to attract other people as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hock. Councillor Bevans.
Thank you. Agree with what everyone's saying. I think what we should do, almost as what Councillor Dalton said from the start, is basically we look at the £750, we go back to 17 years and we work out what the RPI or the index is for today and see what that is. So if it is around £1,200, we stick to that. I feel doubling it seems a bit extreme, but by going with inflation, we might be able to see and get more of a level land where we should be at the moment.
Thank you. Any more views on this topic? Councillor Riddle.
I would be quite happy with the suggestion of working out what £750 would be adjusted for inflation 17 years on. I personally would be very happy to accept that. I don't believe we should kick this down the road. I think it's an important issue. I think I chose to propose it because I felt that as I am independent of any political party, I was probably in the best position to raise it, because I had nothing to gain and nothing to lose. I think that I've deliberately pitched this figure lower than the figure which was recommended by Wiltshire Council's independent remuneration panel. I know that other councils in Wiltshire are paying their members an allowance which is comparable to the level which I have proposed. The one thing I don't think we should do is kick this down the road again. It's just so easy to do that and to not take any notice of the fact that we all know the difficulties we're having of getting people to be councillors. When I was a member of the administration for the last 4 years, I reckon there were weeks when I put in 20 hours a week. I went to Trowbridge for meetings, for planning and all sorts of things like that. Even though I'm not on the administration, I'm still intending to be going to the local plan review meetings on behalf of this council. Those are whole days out of my life. They are not 20 pence worth. They are serious commitments of time. And if you want councillors who are prepared to make serious commitments of time, and then you can't just treat it like a hobby, because it's not a hobby. It's a proper job.
Thank you. Councillor Foster. No.
No, just want to come back on a couple of things. I mean, first, I think it is probably time we do deal with this. 17 years is ridiculous. And kicking it, when is going to be a good time? I was amazed, given the political leanings of my colleagues on the far left, that they're so optimistic about the current government that things are going to turn around. If they don't think now's a good time, when do they expect it's going to be good? But clearly they're hopeful for the next couple of years. So let's stop being so timid and scared and deal with this. And I think we should just take that forward, stand up and let's do it. Now, if we're not happy with a doubling of 1,500, let's do some work. Can we at least tonight come away with the decision of, let's put a cap at 1,500. Let's agree by the next council, we look at what 17 years worth of an index would create. If that goes above 1,500, we can stand up and say, we're not taking as much as we could. We're going to stop at 15. If it comes under, we under. But let's make a decision of not even kicking it down and saying, well, maybe we will. Let's say we will. We'll work on how we get to the number, but not wait for unicorns and whatever that might come around the corner and just deal with it tonight. And I think that's my opinion is. And then move on, as Annie finished at the very beginning. And then set a rule that at least, unless you want to change it, we can all sit back and a system is in place and we've been brave now and we can all go and be scared little mice in the future because someone else is going to deal with it because it's on an index. But tonight, let's stand up and actually just deal with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Soddards.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just try and be brief. I agree with Councillor Foster's thoughts. I think kicking this down the road is not showing any leadership. I think if we just go for inflation on what we've got today, if we regard what we have today as pretty much almost zero, then inflation on top of zero remains almost zero. So we have to have some reasonable way of stepping up. The independent review was exactly that, an independent review. You know, we got to give some respect to that. I, for one, think a compromise along the lines Councillor Foster said is the appropriate thing. And I think those who feel guilty, and including myself, to say this is happening on my watch, the massive increase, then do the right thing, which I will be doing, which is certainly not taking all of that raise, to demonstrate that I am here not doing this for personal gain, but demonstrating that I'm doing it for a system gain.
Thank you. Councillor Bolwell.
I'm coming from the other end of the scale. And I'm not telling you this because it's my sob story, because it's not. Everything I do in my life these days is voluntary. I had to give up work due to my physical health about 10 years ago. Becoming a councillor for me was one stage up from being chair of a residents' association where you've worked with the residents, you know what you're saying, you know what you're doing, you've been to so many different meetings, you're pretty much on the know for most things. When people say to me, do you do it for the money, Jenny? And I can actually look them in the face and say, no, I do it because it's right for me. I'm doing it because you've asked me to, and it helps you, and that's the only benefit I need. So whether you put it up or leave it the same, I myself will be staying where I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sample.
Chair, this is a recommendation from a member taken from a piece of work that's been done at a county level by the Independent Remuneration Panel. And I think one of the interesting things about this is it's based on their objective opinion rather than anything else. I think we all know how difficult it is to recruit members of the public to become councillors. And I do think part of that is because increasingly, and of course it all depends on the amount of time that you spend on your work for Salisbury City Council, but the increasing costs of childcare or carers allowance in order to pay for that cover while you're here, that babysitting, is going up all the time. It's difficult. It is actually quite difficult to find a babysitter. And I don't want anyone who's got young children to feel that they are or could be excluded from the process of representing residents. It's one that we've always battled with. You know, this has always been the case going back hundreds of years, is that in days gone by, it was just the guilds. It was all determined by rich males, usually in their 40s and 50s, who'd made loads of money out of the woolen trade and were able to come here and do their work as an alderman. Bottom line on it is that that's hundreds of years ago. We need to move with the times. So the question was put, what is the inflationary impact over the course of the last 17 years? And the information that I have is that that increase over those 17 years, if CPI had been applied during that period, it would now be worth £1,232. Now that's just my calculation here today, but I defy anyone else to give a different figure. If we include housing costs, there's around about another £20 in it. But bottom line on it is it's £1,200 or thereabouts. And I leave it for members to make up whether they think this is a move that we can put off for another year or one that we should grasp with both hands in the hope that next time there is a set of elections, we have a much more representative group of councillors elected who come from all sorts of backgrounds, age groups, professions and income levels.
Thank you. Asa.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanting to give some information at this stage. As Councillor Sampler said, the independent review suggested 1,980. The amendment as it stands at the moment suggested a raise to 1,500 with increases in line with staff national agreements rather than RPI or CPI. Some very quick scanning are producing some very different figures on what's happening with RPI or CPI. Councillor Sample, you've done some work. I know Mark Reed at the back has been beavering away on his phone as well. So I'm making CPI coming out at about 1350 and RPI at about 1439. So there is significant increases in inflationary pressures over that period. Putting that into context, we're talking about, and the RFO will correct me, about £18,000 if we are doubling the allowance at this stage, appreciating that not all may decide to take that allowance. So if I can just ask Councillor Riddle to confirm the figure that she would like to use and what the increases are that she may want to use as well for her motion or her amendment.
if we can establish exactly what £750 has risen to in that time, I'm quite happy to go with that. I'm not wedded to 1,500. If you want to make it 1,200 or 1,300, whatever the increase in costs represents in today's money compared with what it was when the 750
Councillor,
was set.
option A, I would go for is 1350, which is CPI, or if we take RPI at 1439. Those are the two options. Councillor Rimmer is straining to say something.
Um,
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
If this goes through, where does it come from? Where in the budget does it come from?
I have asked the CEO if this is achievable within our current budget framework, and I'll let him answer.
It would come from general reserve, councillor, is the short answer. We would still be above minimum thresholds, so it is affordable in relation to the budget that's been proposed this evening.
And I would just think that if we tie it to what the staff's raises are, that brings us all on the same level. I think it's good for the staff as well to see that we're not looking at any more than what they get in future. I think it's good. I think it makes.
I'm not clear about the figure that we're talking about now. I'm
Sorry.
1,500, 1350, 1439.
Okay, well, let's go for the. Well, I don't feel qualified to sort of quibble between those figures, really. I think we'll go with the CPI then.
With
CPI at 1350. So
That seems if
what
that
councillors are being asked to vote on is an increase of the parish councillor allowance to 1350, and then further tie-ins with the national staffing agreements every year.
Yeah, I'm content with that.
okay,
Can I call
think-
for it? Can we have a recorded vote on this, please?
Sorry,
Can we have a recorded vote on this, please?
a recorded vote, certainly, yes.
Have I got a seconder? Sorry.
Seconder, still Attical Hock, yes. Thank you. Are we okay?
Oh, hang on, sorry. Councillor Charleston. Councillor Foster. Councillor Hock. Councillor Brown. Councillor Riddle. Thank you, sorry, I couldn't. Thank you.
Councillor Hocking. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Suddards. Councillor Last. Councillor Dalton. Councillor Rimmer. Councillor Milosh. Abstain. Hiding behind Councillor Bolwell. Councillor V. Charleston. Aye. Councillor Bolwell. Councillor Rideout. Councillor Podger. Councillor Rogers. Councillor Bevans. Councillor Johnson. Mr. Mayor, would you like to vote?
Aye.
Thank you. In which case that's carried. We have more amendments, sir.
Okay.
I understand Councillor Nettle has some suggested amendments to the budget. We've agreed that we'll take one amendment at a time to avoid confusion. So, Councillor Nettle, would you like to put forward the first amendment which you are going to propose?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. My first amendment is funding for a pilot scheme of 3 city centre car-free days.
Okay, would you like to illuminate that a little bit? I've got a proposer and a seconder for that. Councillor Nettle, could you explain a little bit more about the proposal?
Yeah. I think there's around the table, and I think through all the political parties, we're keen on reducing, we're keen on, first of all, increasing the footfall in Salisbury, and that footfall is measured by Springboard. But one of the reasons and demonstrations of increased footfall is to have an element of pedestrianisation. And I put this forward because it's a way of considering the appetite of businesses and our residents. And the benefit is that if we put on events, and we've already mentioned in the budget, it says about our Charter Day, 800 years. But if we put on events and we're expecting people to come into the city, then we need to make sure the roads are closed for safety reasons as they come to the market square. And I think there are other opportunities, light switch on, etc., and another day in the summer. But most cities around the globe now are doing this. It is an indication that not only does it benefit the city from people coming in and using the shops, and they are going through a difficult time at this moment, and it's a way of supporting them. Thank you. I so move.
Councillor Nettle, can I just ask a question about when you're saying car-free days, what area would you anticipate being car-free?
So that would be those areas. Those of you who remember that when we used to have the carnival in the city, so this would be Blue Ball Road, Silver Street as a minimum.
So people could travel to the city, use the car parks, and then move into the car-free zones. Yeah.
And the buses, of course.
Okay. Any questions about that proposal? Councillor Hott. Councillor Riddle.
Yes, the figure that Councillor Nettle is suggesting, is that, what does that cover? Is it just the cost of actually setting up the car-free days? What kind of events does it cover the cost of? Sorry.
Okay, so it's any events that we will choose to hold that we want to bring in large volumes of our residents and visitors, and the cost is to Wiltshire Council for getting permission to close the streets, that's all.
Any further questions? Councillor Rimmer?
Thank you. I'm not 100% sure I understand. Are we talking about just closing it for specific events, or it being closed is the event in itself? Are we talking about, like, you know, where we have mayor making or whatever when we close it temporarily, or are we talking about a sort of backdoor to removing cars from Salisbury like we've tried in the past?
Okay, it's really up for council to decide on what those. What I'm suggesting is that we have 3 days in the year, which is suitable. And as I said, if we want to bring in, it could be a light switch on, it could be any large events or mega events that we want to hold during the year.
Thank you. Councillor Hogg.
No.
Councillor Bolwell.
I think my only question there, I get it, I do, but wasn't that the whole idea behind Salisbury Red's Park and Rides, to keep cars out of the city? Or am I missing something?
I'm not overconfident that I can answer that question, to be honest with you, Jenny.
Councillor Sam Charleston.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I will be very happy to support this. I think the understanding that this is some trials to see what works. You know, I've read our endless sort of studies suggesting the benefits of pedestrianisation. Generally, we could to kind of ensure that, I suppose, as long as we ensure that we're actually capturing some useful data about this. You know, is it to the benefit? Are we seeing increased footfall? If so, you know, I'm very happy to see this go forward. So, no question, just happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Sample.
Chair, I'd like to support this. A car-free series of car-free days would be very good for the environment. They'd be good for public health. We have a problem in medieval cities like this from congestion, from vibration, from vehicles, from noise and pollution. And I think this would be an entirely positive thing to look at. Removing vehicles even temporarily would have a significant impact in terms of our attractiveness as a city, as a place to visit. And anyone who's been to any other car-free towns during their operation, places like Frome, will know just how popular that is with visitors and with residents as a whole. And in Frome particularly, it's made a big difference to their footfall. So this is something that only has environmental and health benefits, but it's something that would be good as well, I believe, for our local economy. And here's the key thing: if the answer to that is no, then we can reverse it. So I think a decision here, just put our toe in the water, try it, see what happens, is to be appreciated. And I think the other thing that I would say in support, Chair, is I think this is what decision-making should be all about at a local level. We've got a proposal here from the Conservative group here with Councillor Nettle. I think it's something that if we can find the money to do it, we should do it. And I think I welcome more suggestions like this that will improve the environment. And finally, this is Councillor Nettle back to a subject about which he feels very passionately. I know he's had these views for years, and I'm very pleased to support him on this occasion.
Thank you. Councillor Hocking.
Yeah, thank you. Jenny, just a bit of reassurance for you. We're talking about 3 days, so we could pick, I don't know, a mega Christmas light switch on. We could pick St. George's Day in the spring, and then somewhere in the summer when the weather's going to be nice, I don't know, 27th of July. Ah, it's my birthday. Fantastic. So we could do that. But this is just about, let's try something and see what happens. We can pick up some data from it, as Councillor Sample said. I'm sure we can do something around air quality, traffic flow, footfall, all that sort of stuff. But let's do something rather than do nothing. And see what happens, yeah? And after we've had our 3 days, rolling into next year, we can pick the bones out of what worked, what didn't, what should we do again, what shouldn't we do again? And I don't know, maybe we have more of them, or if it's if it doesn't work, maybe we have less. But I think the idea here is that we try to do something to put the city on the map a bit, I think a bit more, so we can spread the word far and wide. Hi guys, look what we're doing, come and see what's happening in Salisbury this weekend. Jeff.
Thank you. I'm taking 3 more people here, and then we're going to take a vote on it. Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got no problem with this in principle, but what we're asking Wiltshire Council to give us permission to close the road. So they will have to do the legal order, publicise the legal order. I just want to be clear of the costs, because obviously there's a timeline. You don't ask one day and you close it the next. So it's got to be carefully planned, what days we want it closed, when do we need to apply for the road closure order, when do the solicitors at Wiltshire Council have to publicise that closure order. If that can all be done simply, fine. But let's find out what it costs first.
Matt Hine.
Good evening, councillors, chair. I think so broadly, these are my notes, by the way. I'm not just texting. I think broadly, we as event staff and the business team support anything that we feel might enhance the experience for people that visit and work and live in Salisbury. What I would offer is some sage advice, which I think has already been discussed, around how we genuinely going to be able to deliver this in a meaningful timescale. Now, we've had a conversation about tying it to existing events. That seems to be sensible because there are already things that are in the calendar as opposed to potentially introducing it as something else. Capacity within the team is stretched. Having said that, we are officers and we work for councillors, so of course we would try to make any vote work to the best of our abilities. Logistics are extremely important and we need to get those right. We need to understand that any stakeholder groups that may be involved in the delivery of the event, such as Reds, such as retailers, such as other shops, such as markets or vendors or anyone else that might wish to be involved in such a scheme, were on board and felt that it would benefit them in the way that we feel that it would. We would also, of course, have to understand the costs that were involved in full. And the challenge that I would be pushing back to councillors, as I'm aware that many of you sit within both councils, would be what can you do on your away pitch or your home pitch, depending on where you come from, to make sure that these things can be delivered by us as the stakeholders for this. So I, of course, support this as a principle. Why wouldn't I? I want to deliver it because I feel that it could be good. I don't want to fail. I also don't want to take a bath on it financially. So I think councillors would have to have a conversation about, do they feel that this is something that they would wish to make the money or not? So that's a very genuine conversation I feel that we need to take place. But as I say, more events, absolutely. More boots on the ground, more people in the city, of course. But we need to be absolutely clear about how that will be delivered. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I'm going to call the discussion to an end there, but I'd just like to add my own opinion to this. It seems to me that we've got a positive suggestion on the table here, and the 3 days is a limit, not a target. So if we do run into logistical problems on the first instance, we don't have to follow it through. So I think it's a sensible way to dip our toe in the water. I think there's lots of positive reasons why we should try it, not least of which it's not been tried before on that scale. And my own personal view is that I would support it. But I've only got one vote like everybody else. But coming to the vote, all those in favour? Thank you. Pretty much unanimous. Can I show that again, please? All those in favour? Okay, that's all those.
No, Councillor Rimmer is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Apologies, Chair. All those against?
Councillor Rimmer.
Yeah. Right. Councillor Nettle again.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me to do this. One thing that I would like to move is funding in line with the officer's request to update the HR system. I think that it's well known that certainly since I've been a councillor, I'm sure others who have been here slightly longer than me will know that one of the challenges that we have is not only in our financial systems, but the integration with our HR system. This, as a moving forward as an organisation, and given the underspend that we're predicting, has to be a must. It's such a small fee in comparison. In fact, I couldn't believe how small it was. So I would just ask councillors to include this, because it's just going to make us far more efficient in the future. Thank you.
So we've got a proposer and a seconder, Councillor Hocking. Any comments or questions for Jeremy Nettle?
Could you remind me of the cost of that, please?
Chair, I'm happy to say that if that helps. So we are looking in 27-28, that would be a £5,000 cost, and 28-29, a £5,000 cost. No further expenditure in year 1 or years 4 and 5. We believe we can meet that from savings.
Councillor Hocking. Councillor Hocking.
Yeah, Chair, sorry, no, I support this because I think it's time we sort of moved away from spreadsheets and pen and paper and into the digital age, actually. So this, although it's 5K the year after and 5K the year after that, I suspect the savings in manpower will easily cover that. So I'd support this. We just need to roll this through. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further comments, we'll move to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Nettle again.
Yeah, thank you. Funding to investigate and deliver a Christmas lights turn-on event. And I'm not going to mention the F word.
So do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Hocking. Councillor Hocking.
Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the administration come up with a very good budget. Although the Christmas market budget, I didn't hear an amount that you've allocated.
Happy to confer, Chair. We are looking at a £10,000 one-off cost for 27-28.
Well, I'm delighted that you have included that on that, but given what we've experienced, is 10,000 going to be enough? Because once a year, Salisbury is quite important and people do look out for a better experience. And those lightings throughout the years didn't look okay to me. But although 10,000 seems good, but can that be increased so we have a better experience and people are enjoyable and seeing the lights during December?
Thank you. Councillor Sample.
Sorry, Chair. Yes, so I don't want to be boring about this, but I have been here a long time. And one of my happiest memories was at the time when I was the mayor of the city and I followed Ricky, when we had the whole community involved in the organisation of switch on events. There was significant financial contribution from the then district council, God rest its soul. There was really good input from the cathedral. There was often a service that began at the cathedral, and then there was a parade with music and carols going back through the high street, and culminating, that parade culminated in a really good event in the market square. And I think, you know, looking back on that, I believe that that was a great demonstration of the district council working really well with the community and producing an absolutely first-class event. And the key thing about it, really, from my perspective, was the fact that it brought so many people into the city on a Thursday, a month before Christmas, and it was a real start to the shopping season. Not only was it supported by the church and the local community, but also by the shops and businesses. You know, they promoted it as well, and there was advertising on radio. A great event. If we are going to do this, Mr. Chairman, final point, we have to do it with our partners in the community. £10,000 is just chicken feed in reality, but it is a step in the right direction, and it's something on which we can build. So it has my full support.
Thank you. Several people waiting to speak. Councillor Hocking.
Chair, thank you. Yeah, absolutely support this. I remember the days of big stage, celebrity, maybe not necessarily, but certainly the mayor would come along and open the show. We'd have some local bands on, all that sort of stuff. We even had the F word for fun. Although we did rain some of that fun down on a couple of members of the crowd, the ex-leader of the council, who didn't find it that funny. But actually it was okay afterwards because everybody was fine. But as Councillor Summit, this is something that we should do because we can. It brought the community together. We filled the market square and the surrounding streets. Thousands and thousands of people turned out. Everybody had a great time. And again, it's one of those things that puts us back on the map again. Look what's happening in our city. Go back to what we were talking about now about car-free days and what Matt said, opportunities for funding. The bid should be involved with this because we're bringing people into their city to spend money in their businesses. So they should be involved with this as well. We've got the opportunity for advertising. There's all sorts of stuff we can do around this. So I absolutely wholeheartedly support this, and it's something that we should most definitely do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sanchez.
Thank you, Chair. I said last week at Finance, I said at the start that there are some amendments I'd be very happy to take on. I think this is the sort of thing we specifically called out, or I specifically called out, and I'd be very keen to do, or in this case now support. I just wonder if, as a, you know, I'd be very happy as it's my, I suppose, my motion or my budget or the administration budget is, you know, are we able to just accept this? I just accept it as a friendly amendment to the motion I've proposed, which is the budget.
Okay.
I know that everyone wants to have their say on why Christmas is so lovely, and I
With that
Or
offer on the
we just
table,
move to the vote, I suppose. So,
I agree that doesn't necessitate a vote, but I'd like to hear the comments of the four people that have requested to speak anyway. Councillor Rimmer.
Thank you. I just find it odd that we're sitting around the table seemingly coming up with ideas to spend more money when we're in a situation where we're about to be asked to raise the precept. We're already, I think, the second highest parish council precept in the entire country. That was for 2 years ago. I haven't seen the data for this current year, but we're already at that level. We're putting the precept up, or we're about to vote on that. And hearing amounts like 10,000 described as being chicken feed by Councillor Sample, I just think shows how out of touch this council's become with the people that we represent. £10,000 is 25 people's precept. That's 400 quid that most people pay for their precept. That's a lot of money to a lot of people. And we're taking 25 people's 400 quid and spending it on this. I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad idea. I'd like to see a business case for whether it's going to make money rather than losing money before I was actually felt willing to vote on it. But I just find it completely baffling that we're sitting here in this current situation, the current financial situation people in this country, in this city, find themselves in. We're saying to them, we're putting up your council tax precept, and we're just going to call amounts of money like £10,000 chicken feed and just say, oh, we could spend that on anything. And I just think it's completely out of touch, and I just think it's frankly just stunning that it's it's the attitude that people have.
Thank you. Councillor Dalton.
Chair, thank you. I'll give an alternative version, if I may. I don't agree with Ed, actually, on that. I think the Christmas lights switch on as was, and there are many around this table that were at those events. Ed, I guess you were not. When I was mayor, a long time ago now, 2010, so we had the Christmas light switch on in the market square, and I was told then that 12,000 people were there. And I have to say, I was brooking myself, I nearly said another word then, so I had to get up on the stage and do the opening event, etc., and that cracked me for public speaking, actually. I became perfect, should I say, after that, so I was all right. So we had the stage out there, 12,000 people. We did have the F word, we had the fireworks. If we have fireworks, great. If we don't, we don't. To me, bringing in, and I've nagged my group on this for a long time, and we were going to bring this here tonight anyway, and it is the right venue to bring this tonight. We can't do it midway through the year. Having 12,000 people out there who would come after 6 o'clock, normally it's the 7 o'clock switch on. We had BBC South Today were here when I was mayor. Sally Taylor was on stage. The shops were all open till 9 o'clock. Let's get that right. Not 8 o'clock as it was last year. Let's bring it to 9. We need the bid on board, the chambers of commerce, and etc. We need to start that work now. We need to make the switch on event a success. Nothing really has happened big time, should I say, since COVID. I say that, the C word, that probably ruined everything across the whole country. But let's get back to where we were. I totally support this. If 12,000 people, bringing 12,000 people into the city does not make money, then I'll resign the day after. I do not believe that 12,000 people are going to come in and just immediately go home afterwards. They're going to go to restaurants, pubs, whatever, to buy refreshments, food before the event. Kids will be out on the square with their swirly, whatever it is, the lights, whatever they're called. Mine certainly will be. It costs us a fortune every time we go to those events. But and then after the 7 o'clock switch on with the bands, let's get some either local people in. For God's sake, somebody, Sting, he only lives down the road. Let's get him. He hasn't done anything in Salisbury yet. He didn't respond to me when I was mayor anyway. But let's make it big. Not just for this council, it can cost this council 10 or 15,000. I have to say I'm not worried about that, but it'll bring in big money for the city. That's what I'm worried about. We need to attract more into the town centre, should I say, get the shops open till 9 o'clock. bring people in, have a good event and get people spending their money. That will be brilliant for the city.
Thank you. I've just been advised that the leader of the administration has accepted the amendment. Am I correct in saying that? And therefore there is no need to vote on it if it's been accepted by the leader of the administration. Is that correct? Okay. In which case that amendment will be made.
Chair, did you want Councillor Foster and Rogers, or are you happy to move on?
I thought you were saying we should.
No, I'm happy to move on.
I think we need to move on.
You are,
I mean,
Chair.
There are lots of benefits, lots of positive comments, but the bottom line is it can be authorised by the leader of the administration as an amendment to the budget. So I think we move on to the next amendment. Thank you. Councillor Nettle.
Sorry about this. I'm not really. So the next amendment I'd like to move is to funding to increase expenditure on Christmas decorations. I think we've all seen on Facebook and everywhere in the public domain. I appreciate, sorry if I've stood on anybody's parade. I was just going through the list that I presented you earlier and I wasn't aware that there was any other motions. So so I'm happy to move that.
I'll second that, Chair.
So a proposal seconded by Councillor Hocking to increase spending on Christmas decorations.
Chair, happy to give some detail on costs if that's helpful. So the proposal is an increase of 22,500 in 26-27, and then the budget falling back to £10,000 for the following 4 years. So over the 5-year period, that would be £62,500 increase.
Okay. Councillor Hock.
Thank you, Chairman. I was a bit confused there. So we've got two sets of amounts. We've got £10,000, that was for the switch on. Am I correct?
You are correct, Councillor Hock. So the amendment you've just voted on is for a switch on. This amendment is around Christmas decorations for the city.
That's the one I'm more interested about, Christmas decoration.
That's the one we're discussing now.
The switch on, so I'm not, well, all right, thank you.
Councillor Riddle.
Sorry, did you say 60-odd thousand pounds over 5 years? Yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned that obviously we were told that there was some leeway within the budget because there was about £400,000. I'll say unexpectedly available, but I mean, I'd like to tot up all these costs and see where we're going with them.
Happy to do so, Mr. Chair, if you're happy.
Yeah.
So of the proposals of 5 proposals that I think are coming forward so far, I think we're looking at around about £242,000 over the course of the 5-year period. The RFO will tell me otherwise, but that is still those changes would still be above the minimum thresholds required in the general revenue account if they're all taken. But what we're doing is we're taking these one at a time so you can understand the individual impacts, Councillor.
So it doesn't prevent us from having our reserves built up in the same timescale that we'd
if you agreed all of these, you would still be above the minimum threshold as recommended by full council.
Right.
The RFO has got his hand up, so usually, Chair, if that's okay.
It's not to contradict you, it's just to remind you that as well as the 5 amendments that you're just discussing now in terms of Councillor Nettle's amendments, there's obviously also the parish councillor allowance increase as well. So even factoring all of that in over the 5 years is still affordable because you're looking at about £300,000 as the total cost of all this extra that wasn't in the budget that's now being potentially added this evening. And 300,000, if you look at general reserve by the end of year 5, currently it's showing at 2.07 million. You drop that by 300,000, it drops down to 1.7 million, which is still above the council policy of 1.66 million. So the chief exec's correct. You can afford all of this. It's still a deliverable budget. And the one other thing to note is that although quite rightly, you're looking at the 5-year impact of each of these amendments, and you're making decisions based on that, in 12 months' time or in the next 6 months, you'll be starting budget setting for the following year. You can revisit every one of these numbers. So it's not like you're committing £300,000 extra tonight and you're stuck with that. You can revisit it and make any economies you need to in 12 months' time. I hope that reassures.
Thank you, Steve. Councillor Dalton.
Chair, thank you. It's very aptly timed because I've just found it in the budget paper. I'm all for spending on Christmas lights, but there is a budget headline, Appendix B, line 22 on City of Stars. So it's saying there, City of Stars trail that is organised by SEC in partnership with the Experience Pillar Group, blah, blah, blah. And that is for, is it 19,250 recurring? So it's £49,250 in the budget. Yeah, not. Why don't we reassign some of that potentially? That's where I would be looking at it rather than spending extra.
So, may I come back, Mr. Chairman, on that?
Councillor Nettle.
Thank you. Councillor Dalton's absolutely right. When we looked at the budget, we felt that spending that kind of money on one event, when we could spend more on better Christmas lights across the city and also have a tree, the Christmas tree trail back, which has been popular demand by residents. So I think the idea was that it's, though what you've heard from both the CEO and the Chief Financial Officer is absolutely correct. What we're doing is, in our budget, what we did is remove the STAR project, the £90,000 that you've identified. Thank you.
Thank you. If I can just come back, Chair, sorry. Yeah, 49,250 over 5 years, is it? So 26, 27 to 30, 31. I don't know if our leader wants to look at that potentially. I'm just throwing this out. I haven't said anything, but I'm all for spending money on the lights. I totally get that. I could give you an opinion on the lights, but we haven't got time for that this evening.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown.
I just wanted to, it's about the sums, that's all. I support the idea of better Christmas, everything, but how did we come up with this 15,010 a year? Is it a specific set of new lights and a tree trail? I mean, is there what's the science behind the sums?
That would be for the blue team to...
The basis of this was looking at what the current costs are of the existing lighting schemes are, and to build in a budget that took us over the next 5 years. So what the blue team was keen to do is substitute what's currently going on, which is coming to the end of a contract, with investing in lights for the city that many of the residents have asked us to do. So that was really based on current contractual prices.
Thank you. Councillor Foster.
I was going to say, it feels very much robbing from one set of enjoyment to give another, and we already have a substantial amount in here for improving Christmas decorations. I think there's £28,000 there up on the screen. And for, well, however many years the City of Stars, minus COVID, I know of a beaver troop that this year included my daughter that came into town to do the Stars Trail and ended up in McDonald's to have tea afterwards. I've taken my family round the trails and end up in a cafe to have a hot drink afterwards. And that's just me, and I know I'm N of one family, but I think we can't just dismiss the trails and say, well, we can take that money and we'll spend it here to get a few more lights. So it feels at the moment we are increasing things. There is more money in the budget for these things. We've just approved putting in events on, but I think at the moment it feels like it's a no for even more money and a definite no of, no, please don't steal from another thing in here, because they've all been thought through and they've all got their pros and cons, and there doesn't seem enough yet to shift the balances. And I'm not saying in 6 months' time when we start the process again, let's come back to this, but I feel £28,000 to increase city decorations is good. I feel the trail may be coming to an end, but the trails are really popular, and I look forward to seeing potentially the tree trail or another in 11 months' time. So yeah, this would be a no from me. I like the idea, but we've already got some money. Let's not have more some money for this one. Thank you.
Thank you. There's 3 more people I'd like to hear speak, and then we'll come to a vote. Councillor Rimmer.
Thank you very much. You're all going to get sick of me saying this, but I'm going to keep saying it because I think it's important. What the turquoise team wants, if we're dividing ourselves into teams, is to save residents money. What we want is to have, for people not to be spending their hard-earned cash on schemes that we decide that they want to have. The point is that, you know, it's easy to say there's more money in the budget for this, there's more money in the budget for that. The point is we are about to be asked to vote on increasing the precept by, I think, 363 grand. And we've just heard that all these things we just talked about will be an extra 300 grand. So the point is we can make the decision not to increase the precept by the amount we're about to. There's no, you know, it's not like, oh, there's financial pressures, we have to increase the precept by this amount. As we've heard from around the table, we don't have to, because these are all things that we don't have to do. And it's easy to argue, yes, you know, we could have some nicer Christmas lights. Yes, we can have a Christmas light turn on. I'm not suggesting any of those things are necessarily bad ideas. What I'm saying is that the big picture here is we are asking people to spend more of their hard-earned cash on this, and it is not needed. We can not do that. And in addition to not adding on these extra costs that we're all seemingly voting to increase the costs, we can reduce it, as you'll hear when I put some of my amendments forward. But it needs to be very, very clear that people are sitting around the table saying that the residents of Salisbury should be paying more money for all of this stuff on top of what they already pay, and they already pay the highest precept in the country. And I just think the idea of adding all these things onto a budget is just, it's just crazy. And as I say, the people of Salisbury will be very upset when they hear about this sort of thing happening.
Thank you. Councillor Rogers.
Chairman, I'm not sure about this one. I didn't particularly find the Christmas lights were poor. I thought they were is normal, is good. You know, I didn't think they were terrible. I don't know why we're thinking we need to spread the joy and the sparkle further than it is. I just think there are more important things to spend money on. You know, if I just think locally, the success of the pump track, you know, if you spend a bit of money to enhance the facilities there and you see the benefit every day of the week rather than a few weeks before and a couple of weeks after Christmas. I'm just not convinced that this is a wise use of public money.
And finally, Councillor Sam Charleston.
I didn't have my list. No, I don't think I put my hand up. Oh.
I beg your pardon.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Foster made some really good points here, and I think one of the things we've got to be careful of, particularly with Christmas budgets, is we've just come out of Christmas. We haven't had the wash-up yet about Christmas. I'm sure Councillor Foster and his committee are going to do an incredibly good job of thinking about what next year is going to look like. I've got some ideas myself for him. When we're thinking about these lights, yes, we've already got some more money in the budget. And second of all, I agree with Councillor Foster again that guess who loves those lights? My 3-year-old and my 6-year-old. And that's who these lights are for. This is what Christmas is about. It's not actually for all those people sitting on Facebook saying how awful it is. It's for the children who are wandering around saying how wonderful it is because they're excited about Christmas. They don't need more lights and more exciting lights. They loved what they had. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to bring the debate to an end now, but I would like to say that we're talking about things as a group here, and we shouldn't be doing that. We're looking at each amendment individually. The other generalisation that I would make about all of these things is that we're very much concerned about the cost, but we cannot possibly calculate the financial benefits to the economy of the city that these investments might produce. So I think whatever you decide to vote for in terms of this amendment, bear in mind that these are, as I said earlier, they're not targets for spending, they are upper limits. We may decide to spend a little bit less, but also you need to take into account the overall impact of these things on the atmosphere in the city and the financial benefits to the economy that would bring. And I know that people visit Salisbury from other cities at Christmas. I met them in the Market Square recently. So the more exciting that might be, the better the reputation Salisbury might be in attracting visitors. So can we come to a vote, please? All those in favour of this increased payment for Christmas decorations? All those in favour? Six. All those against? That's voted down. Okay. Right. Councillor Nettle.
This one is a bit more positive. This is spend to save, as opposed to just spend. And what you'll see in your papers that the administration have got at 5.4, you see that depot solar panels are in the current budget. And what I'm proposing is that we investigate installation of batteries to support solar panel or standalone at strategic SEC sites that are high consumer of electricity. It's well known now that businesses are moving to use batteries during low load time. So in fact, from 1 a.m. to 5 p.m., it's 7 kilowatt per hour, as opposed to 23 kilowatt any other time. So using, having additional batteries across the city, which aren't currently in the budget, and I'm asking the head of service to investigate what these costs might be, because I think it's a great way of reducing our utility prices in the future. And I think from a sustainability point of view, it has to be the way forward.
Thank you. Asa, would you like to come in on this?
Thank you, Chair. So just for some clarity around this, in last year's budget, there was a position where solar panels for the depot was included. Half of that was funded from revenue, half of that was from capital. The revised position from Mark Reed was that actually, given the position of our depot, it was likely that only half of the roof was going to be capable of sustaining solar panels, and therefore we returned around about £120,000 back to General Reserve. However, we still kept within the budget the original plan, which was to spend £119,000 of capital monies. The latest quotation that we have available to us, and I owe an apology to the blue team, apologies to use phrases like blue team and other teams. The costing, as I checked this morning with our head of environmental services, was a ballpark £149,000. That included provision of solar panels, transformers and batteries. I apologise, it was a request I made to Mark some 4 months ago after a discussion around business continuity. So apologies, Blue Team, that I did not highlight that to you before. But the latest position is we think there is a £30,000 gap should we wish to include batteries on the solar panel work. So in terms of supporting this amendment, we would be looking at a £30,000 uplift. We would obviously go to negotiate. That is just based on one quotation. We would need to check the specifications being used, but that is the size of the challenge. Mr. Reid is nodding at the back of the room, so I feel like I've done at least some justice to what he would have said.
Councillor Nettle.
So may I ask then, is this affordable within the current budget?
My answer would be yes, it is. We would also need to double check, because this came very late in the day, as to what the benefits would be as well. So we can work out that it would be a one-off £30,000 cost. We believe there would be additional benefits and reduced utilities costs. We have not had the time to look at what those benefits are.
I'm very happy with that.
That said, Councillor Nettle, do you wish to amend your proposal?
No, I think the proposal is okay as it stands, in as much that just using solar panel without a battery is a bit like taking a dog for a half walk, really. It's in other words, I mean, the benefit of getting electricity at the cheaper rate and then using the solar panels to top up that is what this game is all about in sustainability. So what I would say, if that the CEO has said that the solar panels does include a battery, I think he said that, and then all I'm asking now is that we look at that the officer looks at other sites for spend to save, which would have to come back to F&G or I imagine a committee to discuss and whether it could go forward. It's the question of we should be forward thinking in seeing where else can the battery technology work for us in this city, and you don't need solar panels for that.
Councillor Suddards.
Well, it was just a suggestion to, if it was deemed the extra 30,000 was unaffordable, then scale down the capacity of the batteries that you are putting in. It doesn't have to be a set size battery. You can scale it down to tweak down the cost.
Where we got to? Councillor Sample.
This is going to be interesting, Chair, because I've got a question for the other councillors in the room just to check where they are. Those councillors in the room who've got EV at the moment, who've got solar panels, I'd really like to see who's got solar panels. Right, okay, so there's yeah. Chair, Mayor, no. But those of us who are in the room that have got solar panels will be able to tell you about the significant amounts of electricity which we're able to generate. The other thing which we have in common, apart from the enthusiasm for solar panels, is the fact that we've probably got a little app, so we actually track what the solar panels on our roof are actually delivering in benefit every day. And of course, the end result of that is I get a weekly readout, I get a monthly readout, and I get an annual readout, and I've even got a lifetime readout. But the news for a person who's got a house with a southeast facing roof is that during the lifetime of my panels, I've generated more than twice the amount of electricity that I've used. But the real saving here, Mr. Chairman, is the fact that I'm able to store that in the battery, and I'm able to download electricity at a super cheap rate between 2 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the morning without doing anything other than switching that facility on. And then in the morning, even on a winter's day like this, I'm able to power all of my needs as a household from that moment forth for the rest of the day. Even on the darkest days, I'm able to power it. And I think that is the real value of the installation of batteries, is the fact that you're able to generate so much free electricity, but more importantly, store the cheap energy. So I'm all in favour of this. I think it's a great idea. The benefit for Salisbury City Council is because we can pay for this through the capital side of our operation, but we can win in terms of the revenue savings that we're going to make as a result. So it has my full support.
Thank you. Some really interesting points there. Councillor Rimmer.
Thank you. In order to vote for it, I'd really need to see what the actual revenue saving that we're looking at is and what the overall impact on the budget would be. But my question, I mean, I'm going to, like Councillor Sample, I'm going to ask a question of everyone, which is, are we really prepared to put up the precept to ask for more money from people when we are adding discretionary spending onto a budget? These are not necessary spending, these are all discretionary. Can we all look people in the face and say to them, I'm willing to put your council tax up to pay for this discretionary spending? Because this is what we're all doing this evening, and it's just mind-blowing to me.
Thank you. Councillor Hocking.
Chair, thank you. Well, everybody around the table here knows how environmentally friendly I am, yeah? When we were talking about this as a proposed amendment, we were sat around the table, 4 of us at Jeremy's house, and I'm sort of like, a bit like Ed, actually. I'm in the camp of, yeah, really? And then these 3 guys got the apps out on their phone and said, wow, look at the energy my solar panels are generating and how much of that cheap energy is going into my batteries where I'm saving it, and I can top it up at 3 o'clock in the morning if I need to. Then I can use my super cheap electricity to do all the stuff during the day that usually costs me a fortune. And they all said they're saving money hand over fist. So that convinced me. And when it comes to this sort of stuff, I usually take an awful lot of convincing, but absolutely a good thing to do, I think, definitely. So I'm going to support this.
Thank you. Sam Charleston.
Thank you, Chair. I agree. I will also be supporting this, and I'm very happy to accept it. I think it's the sort of thing, to be honest, we should have been doing in the first place. At the point where we had the conversation about putting solar panels on anything, we should be having this. I hope we continue to have this conversation for any solar-related projects in the future.
Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Chairman. I haven't got any solar panels. I'm still keeping Texas in business by burning oil. I just want to be, I think it's a really important thing Jeremy's picked up, and it's a really good thing to investigate. I just want to be clear, have we got the skill and the knowledge in-house to do this ourselves, or will we have to bring in somebody to advise us? You know, can we do this all ourselves and get a conclusion that, yes, this is worthwhile, this is going to benefit, or will we have to spend money to get the advice for us to make a decision?
So I don't know if Mr. Reid would like to make any statements at this stage. I could give you an answer, but if you've got a head of environment, you may as well let them answer.
So, thank you. Yeah, so like any project, we would go to the market, get a number of quotes, discuss our requirements in terms of whether it's solar panels, batteries, etc. We would get details about what the expected return on investment would be, what the annual payback to the council might be as well. So, no, I don't think we would need a a consultant or anything of that nature. I think I'm sure you guys have had independently buying for your own homes. You go out, get the quotes, you get quite a straightforward set of information about what that payback might well be. So I think we can handle that in-house. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, given that we've got full support from the leader of the administration, I think we can agree this without moving to a vote. And at this point, we've been going for some time now, and I'd like to call a 10-minute break. Come back here at, what's the time now? 8:30, slightly more than 10 minutes. But
what sort of operation are we running?
Strong blood is in this business.
I need a wee. We'll have to stop business now.
Well, if the opportunities arise, I will
make most of it.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Paul,
on that note,
we looked into it. Our roof, we've got we've got dormer windows, all sorts of bits. We looked into it for our house in Sunnyhill Road, and I would have loved to have it. But at the time, they just didn't work. And the also thing issue we had was insulation, and our 1930s walls weren't appropriate. We had an expert that came in and said you can't do that insulation because it would cause all sorts of internal strife. So 1930s buildings are probably worse than any other.
The technology is changing very rapidly. The batteries are getting more and more capacity at lower and lower cost because of the fact that China's in the market and they're shipping out millions and millions of batteries. And that technology is getting quicker and quicker all the time. So that's just something you might bear in mind. But the other important thing to bear in mind is when was it you had your quote done?
Oh, crikey, 10 years.
Right. The panels have developed so much more now that they're able to take reflected light of cloud. Even on dull days, I still get it. And despite the fact that I've got 3 of my rooms have got it, and they're all facing in different directions. But the great thing about that is I get 4 or 5 panels very early in the morning, get the early morning sun, and then mid-morning I get a little bit more, and as it goes past into midday.
As a homeowner,
so
there's 2 ways you can increase the value of your property quite easily. One's to put an extra room on, and the other one to put solar panels in.
Well,
because that would be a benefit when you
so,
don't sell it.
I don't know about you. I had a lump sum in my pension.
Yeah.
And
paid for my house.
Yeah, right. So
paid off the mortgage.
I paid off the mortgage, and I had money left over. And we were because it's where we want to live for the rest of our lives. Really, we've made that sort of decision.
well, as long as I'm married anyway, to Catherine. But we've kind of invested in that. So we paid for the solar panels, and our intention is to do the heat pump and further insulation as and when, you know,
I mean, I've got it coming from all directions, but my son is a physicist. He's doing a PhD in physics.
Right.
He's doing research into, he does lots of research into materials, which is all about the materials that are used in batteries and computers and so forth, about doing things faster and more efficiently. And it's just, everything's getting smaller and more powerful.
So I think we all, when we get these amounts of money, when we get these pensions, I think we're spending a lot of time actually, how can we maximise the value of that? And we couldn't see that any better way of, it's not an investment in the environment, don't get me wrong, I couldn't get the return from a pension that I could from the reduction in energy prices. So I knew that if I lived 20 years,
well,
you know, the electricity bill is going to be a massive headache. You know, if we cut that in half,
there are so many of these things, environmental things, where people don't want to invest in, you know, things that, you know, to do with air quality. People, that's a big investment and it doesn't take immediate effect. Yes, it does. As soon as you improve air quality, your health ceases to deteriorate in the same way. So there's an immediate impact. It's a quick win as well as a long term. Most of the environmental things are.
Have you, John, I don't know whether Ian has answered you because he's gone into hospital for an operation.
Has he?
Are you okay about our budget?
Yeah, well, I've had
Have you got any issues, complaints, worries, or concerns?
No, not significantly. I know one or two things maybe, but I mean, I've not really got my head around it. Because we've got 2 days, haven't we, coming up in February?
Yeah, there's.
And I had a
we're
chat.
hoping to get it through on the first day, but there's every possibility that, you know, the Tories may be up.
I think I've got a consultation meeting in my diary, a Teams meeting.
Yeah.
So that will give me a chance.
Well, we'll talk it through.
Yeah. I think it's a Tuesday afternoon coming up fairly soon.
Let us know.
Yeah.
If there's anything you don't like, you know, because we may very well get to the point where, you know, for a couple of extra quid or something, it's a position where you could be, you know, you could get a good deal if there was a. And same with Ricky. The thing is, what can you give Ricky? He's just had a cheque for 22 million quid. I think, you know, he's the guy who's got everything. So there's no way we can buy him off.
That was an issue, wasn't it, last week? Because I was at a funeral in Yorkshire, and Ricky wasn't even in the country.
No. Well, he was late getting back. Yeah, we lost 2 votes out of 4. Lost them. Tories were absolutely cocker.
And
because
I mean, my stepmother passed away. The funeral was on Tuesday, and I couldn't drive back after the funeral. It was just too much. I had to drive back.
These things happen. Right. Oh. Yeah. Right.
Got my son back at the I started at 7 in the morning.
There, right. So
So I was just gone.
We knew we were in trouble because we didn't actually know that Al was going to go. We were assuming Al was going to go. The thing is that Ed and his team for UK have effectively teamed up towards, and they can't play a cigarette. I thought they would be at each other's necks all the time.
That might be a short-term solution, but I'm not sure there's quite a few Conservatives that are not happy about that. That could backfire long term.
But you've got it in your diary. Do you want to lift up? I'm going through the list of questions.
Lift up where?
Trade.
No, I'm on the trade all the time. Yeah. I don't. I'm just looking.
You'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm just looking at.
It's in the diary.
I'm looking at this budget meeting.
Yeah, you've got a briefing. There's a briefing. I think I will Tuesday or Friday.
Budget briefing.
Yeah.
Wednesday the 21st.
Oh right. Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah.
That'll be it. And then the big ones.
The big days are end of February.
I've got in here. I have got an electronic diary as well, but this is the one that I carry around and is easy to get to. So I've got full council, 24th to 25th. So there's nothing going to go in there, so I'm definitely there.
I mean, I'm sorry to hear about your stepmother.
I know, but she was nearly 90. She's had Parkinson's for the last 5 years.
But she lived.
Which one? North Yorkshire. So we went up there before Christmas, and then it's a 3-day trip.
Yeah.
You drive up, spend the day there, and then a day driving home.
My mum was living in Dumfries.
Oh.
That was,
Once it gets beyond 300 miles, it's a day trip.
well, we used to go up and spend 2 nights up there, drive up,
Yeah.
spend a couple of days, drive back. It's 7 hours door to door. It's crazy. Even if we took the plane, it was still 7 hours. Anyway, you're up for it.
I'm definitely.
Right. Okay. So
Yep.
it's in your diary. And Ricky, I'm sure Ricky will. But anyway, if you've got problems, just let us know.
Yep.
We'll do what we can.
I think if that goes through, there'll be a lot of resignation letters tomorrow morning, my own included.
I mean, this is bonkers. All of these things are potential generators of income.
This is the problem with
This will enhance the city centre at Christmas, and that will generate revenue.
I think we've got another couple of scheduled next year, and then I think Rimmer wants to move some.
And then the consumer can't wait.
I know, and then I think there may or may not be some questions from council on St Peter's Place, which is politically an interesting one. It wasn't the opposite.
Like, this is a messy process. It's really messy. I prefer, this is the issue, discuss it, vote, done.
Democracy is closed if there's only 3 arguments in the meeting, 1 criteria and 1 say.
And it's the thing is, what
Okay, thank you for coming back promptly. Councillor Nettle, have we completed discussing the amendments that you propose?
Not quite. We're very nearly there. Very nearly there. It's like my kids used to say when we went on holiday. Okay. But the next amendment I was proposing was an increase in fees and charges of 4% in line with inflation. I noticed in the administration's budget it's 2 point something, and I just feel that our suppliers are putting charges up, and I appreciate what Councillor Rimmer says. I do understand that because many of my residents share the boundaries of his residence. But I think that we as an organisation, as a council and as a business, if suppliers are putting their charges up by 4%, then we should in line do exactly the same. That's what I would like to move.
Seconded by Councillor Hocking. Councillor Rimmer.
Thank you. Probably going to lose my voice by the end of this debate, by the end of this this evening at this rate. But same thing I keep saying. You know, I just can't see any justification, given the current climate, given the current situation, given what we're about to have to vote on, to do anything that involves residents paying more money for what we give them, because we have the highest precept in the country, one of the highest precepts in the country, certainly the highest in Wiltshire by a long, long, long way. Do people see benefit for that? Discuss, but I just can't believe that we're still sitting here voting on more things that are going to be harming people's ability to live their lives and to spend money and to earn money and to live. So I can't support this either, I'm afraid.
Thank you for that. I need to point out, though, that councillors, members are entitled to raise questions and make proposals and amendments. That's part of the democratic process. And I think that's what we have to consider. And as long as people wish to express those views, then I'm certainly not going to stop them, and we will vote accordingly so that the democratic process is followed. Councillor Sadat.
So I think this is something that increases the funding available to the council, which would enable the precept to be lowered if we are raising charges that our suppliers are charging us, or we're charging for our services. So this is something that is net positive on the bottom line, which would enable our precept to be lowered if we were charging more on general fees and charges.
Thank you. Councillor Hocking.
Chair, thank you. I'm in support of this as well. I understand where Ed is coming from, but there's a big chunk of utilities and stuff in this as well, and I'm not quite sure why we should be effectively subsidising the gas company for the gas we use at the crematorium or the electricity that we're using at the depot and all the rest of it. I think those charges are going up to us, and I think we need to reflect that and pass those on, because otherwise we're just subsidising our supply chain. And even in non-council world where I live, in the real world, private industry, you can't do that. If you subsidise your supply chain, you end up going bust. So I think what Councillor Ness is suggesting is fair. When we should increase our fees and charges by inflation. Thank you.
Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm struggling a bit with this one. When you look at us as an organisation, if we were struggling to meet our income targets, then I could accept that, maybe we need to increase fees, but we're predicting an £800,000 surplus this year. We're not struggling to meet our income targets. We're exceeding our income targets. So Well, that's, say 400, but that's because of a VAT return. If that wasn't there, we'd have £800,000 above our predicted income targets. And we want to increase, it's just being a little bit too greedy in my books. So I can't support this.
Thank you. Councillor Hawke.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just baffled if is this the blue team's budget or is it the yellow team budget? So bit worried here. Anyway, I'd like to support what Councillor Rogers and Councillor Rimmer has said. I think it's going to be very difficult to support this 2%. I think the administration got it right and is sensible. So I can't support it.
Councillor Taylor.
Yes, I'm supportive of this. I think I totally support what Councillor Rimmer's been saying all night, and I might make another point about that later. But we are, I think it's the fourth most expensive parish council in the country. When I Googled it, that's what I came up with. But we're definitely in the top 5. And it is tough out there. We know that around this room. And it is a challenge that we are now proposing as a council, putting the precept up by 4.99%, which I think is not a good thing to be trying to sell to our residents. If we can reduce the precept by charging those that use our services the going rate in line with inflation, I think that could only be a good thing. So I would support 4% increase. Thank you.
Councillor Riddle.
It might sound odd when I have supported other spending increases that people have mentioned this evening. But on this one, I think if we haven't got to do it, let's not do it. Councillor Rimmer keeps saying we are one of the most expensive parish councils in the country. That's because we are one of the largest parish councils in the country and we are a forerunner, and there will be many more following in our footsteps, whether they like it or not. Whether or not you think the parishing has been a good thing for Salisbury, which I think frankly has been terrible. We're still providing a very much higher range of facilities for our residents and our businesses than most parishes. And so I don't think you can just keep saying, oh, we're so expensive, we're so expensive. There's a question of scale here. On the other hand, I don't really support raising these charges if we haven't got to. If we're asking people to pay more tax and they can see the benefits in terms of what we're proposing to spend it on, that's one thing. If you're asking them to pay more on top of that for every little thing they do every day, then that's probably is a step too far.
Thank you. Councillor Dalton.
Chair, thank you. Annie, as Meatloaf said, you took the words right out of my mouth, I think, on that. That's exactly what I was going to say. We're not Wilton Town Council or Netherhampton Parish Council or Britford Parish Council. We're Salisbury City Council with, is it 9 million off the top of my head, that, or 6 million, whatever it is that we spend, not £65 a year on a parish council, and we'll up it next year because we've got a new play park to install, and then we'll bring it down the year after, which is what a lot of parish councils do. So it's difficult. You can't compare Salisbury City Council with, it is a parish council, but you can't compare it along those lines. This one I'm going to speak against, because although you say raising the charges to 4%, but what impact does that have on the precept? I haven't heard that yet. Is it going to be 3%? Where are those figures? The figures are not there. This is a financial case which we need to make. So if we're saying raise the charges by 4%, what impact will that have on the precept increase? I haven't heard that yet, so I can't support it.
Steve, I don't know if you've got a view in terms of the difference between discretionary and non-discretionary income and the amount of money that we're talking about. Off the top of my head, I think we're talking about tens of thousands of pounds compared to something more significant than that, looking at Appendix A.
So the volatile on the screen at the moment, where the 2% fees and charges increase is above the precept council tax rate change on the budget proposal before you, whereas the Finance Committee, when we looked at the Conservative opposition alternative budget proposal, that was the one that said 4% across the board fees and charges increases. What line of the medium-term financial plan, that 2 or 4% affects is, as the chief exec said, it's the discretionary income line, which on the medium-term financial plan, just picking 26, 27, it's about a third of the way down where you've got all of the income lines. So discretionary income for 26, 27 is just over £1 million. So that 2 or 4% would be of that figure in terms of the magnitude. I would suggest, though, that most officers, if you look at the Appendix C, which never gets a good look in, unfortunately, in these budget papers, but is absolutely crucial. Appendix C is all of the lists, the hundreds of fees and charges that this council charges to its customers and to some of its residents. Officers, in looking and proposing 1st of April 26 rates, fees and charges, have assumed across the board roughly of the 2% increase. So you could agree tonight to increase the income budgets by 4% instead of 2%, but a lot of those fees and charges would then have to be re-looked at. It's not impossible, but it's not something we could do tonight on the hoof. So you could increase the budgets from 2 to 4%, but there'd be a major piece of work that officers would have to go away and see, well, yes or no, does that warrant a change in the 1st of April fees and charges at the detailed level? And you could either have that coming back to full council, or you could ask the chief exec to use his delegated authority to increase all of those. But if you want to look at the budget in the round, I would suggest you don't seek to change the fees and charges, and you don't agree the 4% because it just creates an awful lot of work. It's entirely up to you. The question I think you brought me to the table, though, is what effect, or one of the earlier questions was, if we did this, what would it do to the precept? We absolutely can't run the numbers and calculate that this evening. We would have to stop the meeting, reconvene a meeting on another day, which I strongly suggest you don't do, because we might miss our statutory deadline to Wiltshire Council. So I think the precept should stay as it is. You could still increase the fees and charges budget, but I would suggest you don't try and do the two at the same time by trying to work out what that does in terms of 10, 20, 30,000 pounds worth of income, and therefore drop the precept by that amount, because it would just get too complicated to be able to do in the meeting room tonight.
I'd like to come back to Councillor Nettle, but before that, Councillor Victoria Charleston.
Thank you, Chair. I think just echoing what Steve says, the work's been done by the administration group and the officers to present the budget that we're about to discuss next. Thanks for the idea. Not this time. Thank you.
No, I'm very happy to
Councillor
withdraw.
Nettle.
I was very happy to withdraw the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Riddle, I believe you had a question.
Yes, I'm not sure whether this is a proposal yet, or at this stage it's a question. I want to understand why we're putting money aside in one of the years in the plan. I think it's year 2 or 3, I can't remember now, for facilities at St. Peter's Place, which there's not an explanation properly there of what they are. And I don't understand how that fits with the funding that is supposed to be coming to the Bemerton area from the Pride in Place programme. If up to £2 million a year is available to the people of Bemerton, should they wish to apply for it and put a case for it, to provide community amenities, are we not doubling up here by saying, well, we want to spend £100,000 on something, but I'm not even sure what it is, because it's not really quite spelt out in that paperwork, and I don't understand why we should need to be funding that at all if there's a potential for Bemerton to get up to £20 million over 10 years, which is a huge amount of money, and no other area of Salisbury is going to be getting anything like that. So if somebody could explain it to me, and then I'll decide whether I want to put an amendment.
Oh, well, I would just like to do that, Ricky.
Councillor Bolwell.
I think I kind of pipped you at the post there, Ricky. Obviously, this is
government funded money that's coming to Bemerton because of things that have gone on over the years, the fact that it has been described as a deprived estate. And we said this years ago. I remember sitting down with Councillor Kluwer then, and I said, as much as we don't like to be classed as deprived, not depraved, I knew what I meant, deprived, if that's what it takes to get money and investment onto the estate for the residents, then I'll be the first one there with the begging bowl. Now, the thing is, this money is coming to Bemerton. It's not the whole of Bemerton. It is a map, literally, of a section. St. Peter's, since it's gone up there, has had nothing, absolutely nothing. Didn't get a community centre, hasn't had the football pitches and everything else it was promised, cycle lanes, everything else that was promised to it, it didn't get. So if it means that we don't even know yet if we can include money for that for St. Peter's, because on the map, St. Peter's is an empty space. They may look at it, say, no, there's already housing there, there's already investment there, we don't need to do that. In which case, if they do, you've got residents up there that are paying their council tax and also paying the other company who are supposed to do like parks and stuff and things like that up there and cleaning and what have you not. Nothing. So they're paying twice for absolutely nothing. So if there's money in the budget, which I've read Sam's budget right, that they can add money to it, then I think that that's something we should do.
Thank you. Councillor Rimmer.
Thank you for letting me come back in. I just thought I'd respond to the specific thing about my ward. As Jenny just said, the reason for that funding is because, you know, they looked across the whole country at areas that are financially deprived, and the reason why Bemerton Heath and the Bemerton area in general was chosen is because it meets those criteria. And I think the idea that we should sort of stop other funding streams because that's come in, the reason that's come in is because it meets the criteria for that, and it needs that sort of funding. The area is in desperate need of funding, and, you know, we're going to make sure that it's spent well. But I don't think that should mean that we have to reduce funding from elsewhere. The whole reason that that's required is because funding for the area has been lacking in the past. So I think that I'm not actually 100% exactly what the funding we're talking, what the budget line that we're talking about actually is for, but I think that the justifying taking it away because there's money coming from central government would be wouldn't be the right thing to do.
So, sorry, can I come back on this?
Can I just ask Mark Reed to come in at this point, please?
Thank you. Just to clarify what this funding is designed for. So you may remember there is a Section 106 agreement that's currently outstanding, which will need to come to full council in due course for councillors to decide whether they want to take that Section 106 funding. Part of that is to do with taking on the responsibility of the sports pitches, the football pitches up at St. Peter's Place. And the Section 106 agreement provides some funding to look after those pitches, and then a one-off amount. I forget the exact figure off the top of my head, because it will need to be adjusted for inflation since the agreement was put together. But that figure is to go towards the building of a new pavilion slash changing rooms, etc. So the key word there is towards. Now, it will be down to this council to decide whether that figure is enough, and that the figure that's been put in the budget there is to go towards paying for whatever it may well need, what's decided to be built on that site, whether it is you know, an all singing or dancing pavilion with a cafe, or whether it's just some you know, a shed with a couple of changing rooms. That will be down to the council to decide. So that's what that budget line is for. If the council decides it doesn't want to take on the Section 106 responsibilities, then that money will not be spent.
So who is meant to have provided this facility in the first place?
So the Section 106 agreement that will come forward to council. The agreement says that there will be a sum of money that will be put to the council if we decide to take on that responsibility towards the building of a pavilion. So it will be down to us to build it, but the funding might not be, depending on the scale or the type of building that we put in place or facility that we put in place. That could range from 100,000 to 300,000, 400,000. It depends whether it is just a changing room, whether it's a more comprehensive facility that we want to put in. And at this stage, the council hasn't had that piece of information. So that is just a number that's been put in there so that it's ready to be discussed and it's in the budget.
So it's not a firm commitment?
No, but so the number is a firm commitment. It's in the budget for year 3 because we're expecting Persimmon Homes to provide that information. I've been sort of chasing after them for the last 6 months. I believe that I'm going to have the information to bring to full council in March. At that point, this committee will be able to decide whether they want to take on that responsibility or not. If they decide not to, then I believe it then goes to a management company, and the funding will be, and the funding and the pitches would be transferred to a management company if we wish not to take that forward. And then, as I said, that 100,000 that's in year 3 can be used for something else, but it wouldn't be used for that.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Rogers, you want to speak on this?
Very, very quickly, the guidance is quite clear for Pride in Place funding. It's not one geographical area, it's a middle super layer output area. I know it's confusing, it's hard to understand, so it shadows an area of deprivation which straddles Ed Rimmer's ward and my ward. Absolutely clear, the money is not to be used to support council services. This is a regeneration programme. A programme has got to be written, presented to the minister before we get a single penny. This is about regeneration of old estates. That's what it's about. It cannot be used to supplement council spending. I'm sorry, but that's the rules.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't suggesting
Councillor
that
Riddle.
it should be used to supplement
Councillor
council
Riddle.
spending. Sorry, I was just asking how.
Excuse me, can we go through the chair, please? And we've got Councillor Charlson waiting to speak as well. Sorry. Have you finished? Thank you.
Just very specifically on this, I think it's fair to say that if funding from anywhere else came available for many of the things in this budget, then we'd happily take the money out of the budget. If some local billionaire decides they want to spend that money themselves, then or pay us that money, then we'll take the money out. But whether or not the Pride in Place money could be used for this particular budget line, I can't speak to that. What Ricky suggests, it probably can't. Fine, but like many items in this budget, if someone wants to come along and if we find money or funding from somewhere else, I'll happily take it out. But for the meantime, I want to do it, and I'd like to keep it in.
Okay, Councillor Riddle, do you want to say anything further on the matter?
No, I think I'll leave it at that. I'm going to see what happens.
Thank you. Councillor Nettle, back to you.
So just for clarity, that was just a question from Councillor Riddle. I think the chair is just checking whether Councillor Nettle has any further amendments he wants to move on behalf of the blue team.
Right. I'm not quite sure where I am with the previous amendment, whether that's been withdrawn or whether it's on the table.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
No.
The money for section 10, the 100,000.
Yes, exactly.
My understanding was that was just a question. That was not an amendment.
Right. I was getting ready to vote either way. Must be long then. Sorry. Just finally from me, would like to propose an increase in, or investigate adding more vibrant colour to the market place.
Chair, if it's helpful, I believe that the request here is around more colourful flowers in the area of the market square. The numbers that have been suggested are £20,000 a year increases over 5 years. So that is a £100,000 additional commitment.
Councillor Charleston.
Thank you, Chair. I am assured by the head of service that we can have more colourful flowers or more colourful provision in the market square without this budget increase. So I will not be supporting this.
So do we have any more comments on the proposal to increase the spending on flowers? Councillor Hocking.
Chair, I would just remind some of the councillors around this table who weren't here in times past that Salisbury was a regular contender for Britain in Bloom. We won awards for the floral displays in our markets and our parks. The city was bright, colourful. People came and said, wow, this is fantastic. All I would like to do, and all we would like to do, is put a bit more money in the budget to bring that back again. Because at the moment, we don't have that.
Councillor Bolwell.
I've kind of took over your role this year, John, as I'm chair of Environment Committee. And I remember being sat on your committee when we decided that hanging baskets weren't the way to go. Do I need to remind you why? I'm happy to. Okay. Yeah, for everybody else. Okay, so we decided at that time, and I'm sure John will be quick to correct me, it's not just about the hanging baskets themselves. It's the plants, it's the water it uses, it's the manpower doing the watering itself. That all costs money. Am I right, John?
That's correct. The calculation was made, and I believe I'm correct, and Mark Reed can probably verify this. There is actually a policy in place that we don't use those flowers to display in the market square. So if we did want to change or to proposal along the lines, it would have to go through a policy change at the Environment and Services Committee.
So I will say, if any of you would like to make a change to a policy at Environment, feel free to come to my committee. Thank you.
Councillor Rimmer.
Thank you. I guess I'd better say it again. I can't support anything where we're going to be increasing spending on discretionary things when we're asking the people of Salisbury to pay more money. It's just, personally, it's just a red line. I can't vote for anything that's going to increase spending in this year when we're asking them for more money, when we've underspent ourselves. It's just not the right thing to be doing. And yeah, I can't vote for it. I'm going to keep saying it every time these come up, I'm afraid.
Councillor Taylor. Can we speak through the chair, please? Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. We four sitting over here knew this was going to be contentious, and I wasn't around for the Watergate or the lack of Watergate or whatever it was called, the hanging basket gate. I believe I heard Councillor Charleston, as the leader of the administration, say, let's investigate some flowers that add a bit more colour. In fairness, that's what we were proposing and suggesting. If that can be done without any cost, there's no need to bring it to this budget meeting. But we have all been hammered by our residents over the appearance of Salisbury in general. We've talked about Christmas, but during the year, there is a sort of view amongst residents that we, as a city, are not as vibrant as a city as we could be from an appearance point of view. So our proposal is,
I'm going to ask Mark to come forward here, because I think we're having a debate about something that we can't actually decide here this evening anyway.
Right. But it's not hanging baskets, it's whatever it takes that we all agree with. Thank you.
Mark.
Yeah, so this is something that the administration asked me to look at anyway for this forthcoming year, whilst keeping with the sustainability policy that we have. So we are looking to add a little bit more colour into the existing planters and that we have around the city. It will then be for councillors to and public, ultimately, I suppose, to decide whether what we have put forward is good enough. It won't be hanging baskets, there's traditional hanging baskets. It won't be the type of thing that is going to win Britain in Bloom, or I'm sure. But there is going to be, we are actively trying to put more colour in amongst our sustainable planting. But as I said, if councillors decide that that is, not what they want going forward, and the public are giving that, and that's something that I would suggest that is considered fully in the next time we're doing budget setting. But let's have a look to see what my team can come up with for this forthcoming summer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Dalton.
Chair, thank you. I think Sam Charleston sort of answered it really by saying that we could do something in the Market Square, which is what Councillor Taylor just said. I mean, the opinion, I know there was divided opinion, shall I say, and the policy went through council whenever it was, 18 months ago, was it 2 years ago? I am a gardener. I like my flowers. I grow flowers in my garden each year, and I won't change that because that's what I grow. I don't have a vegetable patch or an allotment. I grow flowers, and I love to see the flowers. I miss the flowers, I have to say, around the city. But we haven't entered Britain in Bloom for many, many years. Previous to Reg Williams, I think. It was about his time when he was the clerk here. So we're going back more than 10 years since we've even entered any of those, to be honest. And I have to say, Sven, the way that your party, your group led the shambolic trashing of the city over that was appalling.
Thank you. Councillor Brydout.
So I just wanted to point out that Britain in Bloom was a thing. It has changed a lot since the time that Salisbury was winning prizes for it. It now focuses a great deal on sustainability and environmental responsibility, as well as community aspects. So I think if we are ever to go forward, look at things like that again, we need to change the way we think about it. It's not just about colour, it's about a lot of other things as well.
Thank you. Councillor Nettle, can I come back to you now to, do you wish to call this to a vote?
Yeah, I think the leader has said that much of what we want to hear. So, and I know that hanging baskets is a real basket case in the first place, but and I think that sustainability, of course, is important, and I think that's the idea. But I think that you can have sustainability with colour, and I think that's, and we've heard from the officer that that's been investigated. So I'm happy to drop it.
Sorry, what did you say, the last thing?
I'm happy
to
to
withdraw the proposal.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Rimmer. Your name's here too.
I understand you have some amendments.
Oh,
Councillor.
sorry,
You
right,
might be
we've moved
moving.
Right, sorry. Yes, so I've got 5 amendments that I'd like to put forward. I'm going to speak to them all together, and then we can debate them individually if we want. But as you probably guessed from what I've been saying throughout the meeting, I have a big issue with us putting up the precept when we don't absolutely have to. If we're in a situation where, we absolutely have to do it, that's one thing. And, we've had that in the past where we've debated that and we've said, look, we absolutely have to. There's no room in the budget to do anything else. We simply have to do it. We're being asked today to put it up by 5%. I know I keep banging on about it, but I'm going to say it again. We are one of the highest in the country. Okay, maybe we're 4th, but, 4th out of 10,000 is still, it's still very high. And colleagues might say that we can't compare us Salisbury City Council with parish councils. I beg to differ. I think that we can, because people live in one place. They live in the Salisbury, they live in another place. Do they get a better service for the amount they pay living in Salisbury?
Chair, point of order, before a councillor can put forward a motion, they have to have a seconder. Does the councillor have a second?
Are we still going through the proposal or?
Well, I was putting forward the
I've just
proposal and then
heard a
someone might
speech in
second it.
favour of his motion. I mean, he's got to have a seconder to get his motion on the table.
The motion is all 5 of these points?
Yes, I was hoping I could present the points and then we
So we're
see if
taking
someone
them as
seconds
a
them.
block?
I think, apologies, Chair, I think it's a fair challenge to ask if there is a seconder at this
Yeah,
stage.
I'm completely agree. I'm just establishing what it is we're asking for a seconder for. Do we have a
Okay.
seconder to take all 5 of these proposals?
Yes, which altogether add up to the amount that the precept is being raised by. So if we
Do
take
have-
these, then the
Do we have
precept
a
rises zero.
seconder for these 5 proposals? Right, it appears we don't, so therefore we don't vote on it or discuss it.
Well, I don't think people have read them yet.
Can we read the 5 proposals or hear the 5 proposals, please? Thank
Well,
you.
this is what I was trying to do. I was trying to present them. I was trying to say what the proposals are in the hope that someone might second them. Can I?
Yeah, but I think we have to note Councillor Sample's point as well. Before you put a motion, you need to have a seconder before you read it. It's no point reading something and then I put my hand up, say, oh, hold on, I'll second that. So I think we're just going
Okay.
either point of order or not.
If that's how it's
Chair,
going to be,
if
then
I
we-
may give some advice at this moment, if we allow some of those councillors who haven't had the opportunity to read what those motions are up on screen, please take a minute to do so now before deciding whether or not they'd like to second. A fair challenge has come in, which says, is there a seconder? So please, councillors, take a minute to read, hopefully on the gigantic screens, to see whether or not this is something that you would like to second. Councillor Hocking has a point.
Chair, thank you. Could I ask if this has been run through the RFO to ascertain what the effect on budgets will be and the effect on what service on and the effect on what the effect on the services will be?
Councillor Hocking, you're absolutely right. There is a substance here. And again, looking at some of these, some of them are capital, some of them are government grants, which may need an RFO to respond to them. Again, I think the substantive issue is whether or not there is a seconder before the RFO gives any further information. Has everybody had the opportunity to read what's on the board behind us? And Chair,
Do we have a seconder? We don't have a seconder for these proposals. Therefore, we move on. Any other amendments to the budget? No? Well, thank you all for your time and your
Chair,
contributions.
if I may, apologies, in which case we now need to vote on the substantive
the overall
budget.
Oh, yeah.
It may be worthwhile to allow the leader of the council also just a minute just to sum up the discussions that we've had before any vote takes place, Chair. Don't know if the leader wants to say anything.
Well, we haven't had any. We haven't debated the substantive
Apologies,
motion.
you are quite right. There is the general debate over the budget of itself. So it would be right to call for any questions, comments, thoughts.
Any
or feelings.
general questions on the budget?
Move that the question now be put, Chair.
Can we have, who's speaking there? Councillor Victoria Charleston.
Assuming that the motion has been moved by the leader, I'm going to second it and say that I fully support it. This is a good budget. We've had great discussions this evening. It was fully debated at Finance Committee last week, and so anything ironed out, I hope that everyone can support it. We could just move on.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. I'd personally like to thank the Leader of the Administration for accepting some of the proposed amendments that Councillor Nettle proposed this evening, and I thought the debate across the room was extremely good, a good example of sort of cross-party discipline, if you like, and conversation, which was very good. For me, I think the 4 of us just sat here, spent quite a lot of time going through the same figures as the administration did. And we were able to push forward those enhancements that we've talked about this evening, whilst also retaining the precept increase in line with inflation, which kind of ties in with Councillor Rimmer's been trying to say this evening. So I think it's unfortunate that despite those enhancements moving forward, we're still facing a 5% increase for our local residents. And I think that's a shame. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments before we move to a vote? I beg your pardon. Councillor Foster.
Oh, I was first. I thought there'd be more in front of me. No, again, I want to thank Sam and our team putting this together. I want to thank Team Blue for putting theirs together, because we've brought forward some good ideas this evening. So I think it's really nice to now have a budget in front of us that is drawn ideas from across everyone around this table, apart from potentially Team Turquoise, which I feel has been throwing accusations at us as Salisbury, and yet recently in the news, Team Turquoise, where they have taken power recently, are upping, I think 80% of their councils now are upping it to the legal limit themselves in their council run. So it's quite a hard job when you're actually in power to stick to what you say potentially, and maybe you can't even get a seconder when you come forward with suggested cuts, just to almost at a surface level show there's an alternative way, but you've not done the homework. And therefore, I don't think it's fair to throw very quick sound bites out there suggesting there's an alternative path if you've not put the work in to actually show us that. And Team Blue did, and we've taken forward some of their ideas. So I suggest next time, let's have a full Team Turquoise budget, and then maybe we can do more of what they want. But in this situation, we have a really good budget now with lots of ideas brought forward from everyone. I thank everybody involved, and yeah, look forward to voting on it shortly. Thank you.
Councillor Dalton.
Chair, thank you. Yeah, I sort of agree a lot of what has been said. It's good, actually a good budget debate this evening. And some of the, we've taken some of what you've suggested this evening. Those, that debate's been going on with us actually as well. And I'm glad that we've taken on board, for a Christmas event, et cetera, this year. I think that's going to be big headlines, to be honest. And just, Ed, I know you're a group of one, but I think if you maybe have some, shall I say, I know they're sensible in your eyes, but obviously not with everybody else's eyes on them, they're not. But if you come forward, maybe somebody is sure to second you to try to get something across. I always remember years ago, Paul's eyes would probably light up. I remember John Hayward many, many years ago, always used to second Mike Osmond on I think it was the Northern Area Committee in those days, because Mike was the only Labour councillor back in the early 90s. And John always gave him a voice on that committee, because obviously you'd never get anything through. And I think if some sensible amendments came forward, then it would be the same. But I couldn't vote for anything where you just cut for the sake of cutting, and not knowing where those budget lines come from. So let's move to the vote. I think we've had a good debate. Some saying we didn't debate it all. We have. I think we've gone round and round in circles, to be honest, on the budget, and it's probably one of the best budgets I've seen for many, many, many years.
Thank you. Councillor Rimmer.
Thank you. I might be sitting in a different room, but I thought we debated the debated the amendments from the Conservatives, and then I put mine forward and didn't get seconded. We haven't. This is the debate on the actual budget. We haven't actually discussed the substantive budget. It may be that lots of people here support it, but we haven't actually debated it. It's all well and good to sit there and say that my amendments didn't get seconded. Yes, correct, they didn't. But to suggest that they're just cut. I mean, the first one was removing the depot solar panels, which is a specific line. It saves 119,000. There's a whole list of these. And I think that boasting about not having even debated proposals that would have reduced the precept rise from 4.99% to 0%, feel free to boast about that if you like, but I don't think it's going to go down all that well.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of information, there are some inaccuracies. The 119,000 is taken from capital, not from general revenue, so wouldn't have had any impact on the precept levels as been suggested. The £8,000 which came from national tree funding was actually a grant which comes from central government to be match funded. So again, there is much more context behind what I believe the councillor was trying to get to. But just a point of information for you
Yeah,
there.
and
Chair.
I feel also we shouldn't be going back to revisit previous proposals.
Sure.
I think
I
we,
won't
we should move on to a summary now, which is what we've begun to do. Have you anything further to say, Councillor Rimmer?
I
in
do.
general?
I'm just going to summarise the point, which is that we pay a huge sum of money in Salisbury. Do we see benefit for it? I think that's that's up to the people of Salisbury. But I think that us sitting here throwing around extra money at projects when people are struggling is not a good idea. It's not a good look, and I think that the people of Salisbury will not be happy with it. And yeah, I think that this evening has been very eye-opening about how people see things. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm taking 3 more comments and then we're going to take it to a vote. Councillor Podger.
Just for the sake of seeing that we're all talking about colours, the red team would like to support the budget. And we feel that we've been very much a part of it, and our voice has been heard by the administration. So we're very happy. We'd like to support that, the red team.
Thank you. And finally, Councillor Sam Charleston. I beg your pardon, Councillor Suddards, and then Councillor Charleston.
Thank you, Chair. I caught between two stools. I think I thank the Leader of the Administration for meeting after the Finance Committee, where our budget was unceremoniously voted out, which we think was an error, because we do believe it was a lower preceptorised budget where we did get some enhancements in. But I do appreciate the cross-floor working that I think has gotten us into a better place than we were in a week ago. I'd just like to think that we can do even better next year by having further dialogue, probably before the Finance Committee meeting, because I think some of the ideas around some savings that could have been made during this last week perhaps were not given the time available enacted on, where we have ended up with this 4.99% figure. I think we could have perhaps shaved some things down and got something better for our taxpayers. So I welcome the improvements. I think hopefully over the next at least couple of years, if not the final 3rd year, we could do something better with even more cross collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Sam Charleston.
Thank you, Chair. And I do echo what Councillor Dalton said. I think the quality of the debate tonight has been generally very good. I appreciate everything that everyone has brought to the table. I think it's fair to agree that where we met, where we talked, we came and found agreement, even if we didn't always agree on absolutely everything. And I think we have ended up with something that perhaps, if not everyone is going to vote for it, everyone can perhaps, or nearly everyone can perhaps be not as unhappy as they may have been. I will push back very, very gently to Councillor Suddards that I had said over and over again, the door was always open. But let's take that forward. Let's take that spirit of collaboration forward and absolutely start having those discussions perhaps a little sooner next time. Councillor Rimmer does make a good point, a very good point about the fact that the people in Salisbury pay a certain amount and the people of Laverstock, for example, pay a much smaller amount. I think he hits the nail on the head as to certainly my feeling about why the district councils should perhaps never have been abolished. If we could perhaps lure some of the outlying villages to bring themselves under the auspices of the city council, that would be no bad thing as far as I'm concerned. I will just speak to his point about whether the people of Salisbury are seeing the benefits. He says that they're not seeing the benefit of anything in this budget, and I wholeheartedly disagree. Play parks, clean streets, accessibility. You know, these are, again, I said at the start, not perhaps the flashiest, but they will make a difference to a lot of people. Perhaps I should be declaring an interest in the play parks for my young children. We visit them all the time. Perhaps that's an oversight on my part that doing something that directly benefits my quality of life and making sure that all the play parks in Salisbury are as lovely and accessible as they can be should have been declared at the start. But either way, I think it's disingenuous, extremely disingenuous to suggest that we're throwing money away on vanity projects or on sort of pointless things. People live in Salisbury, they work in Salisbury, they enjoy spending time in Salisbury. I can say no more than that. If the people of Salisbury think that they want a larger Christmas event, then who are we to say, no, we must not give it to them? We had a wonderful attendee at the parish meeting a few months ago who said that she had recently moved from, I forget where, but a town of similar size to Salisbury, and that their town council did nothing, and that coming to Salisbury had been a real breath of fresh air, and the amount and the scope of the events that we put on, and that it was wonderful to live somewhere that clearly cared so much about their residents' quality of life, and the recognition that quality of life isn't just about the quality of your living environment, but it's about the events and the environment, I suppose, you find yourself in. I'm proud of this budget with all of its amendments. I'm proud that we've come to a fairly reasonable cross-party agreement. Perhaps, again, as I say, you're not all going to vote for it, but I'm really proud of that. Again, thank you all for the quality of debate. I hope you will vote for it. And we better get this in the next 10 minutes before we have to extend the meeting. So, thank you.
Thank you. Asa, will you read out the proposal?
Thank you, Chair. Could I just reconfirm the proposer and seconder? So proposer is Councillor Sam Charles, the seconder is Councillor Simon.
Can I call for a recorded vote on this as well, please?
We will do a recorded vote, not a problem at all, Councillor Rimmer. And for the sake of clarity and to satisfy our RFO, I will read out the recommendations that you are voting for. So to approve the administration's 2026-27 budget proposal, including the agreed amendments so far tonight, including the medium-term financial plan and bids and savings, to approve the 2026 fees and charges, to approve a precept of £6,306,962, and we have determined the parish council allowance budget in our vote earlier today. So are those in favour? So if we go around the room, so Councillor Sample. That does include the amendments, Councillor Hocking. Councillor Sample was aye. Thank you. Leader? Aye. Thank you. Councillor Foster? Yes. Councillor Hock? Councillor Brown? Aye. Councillor Riddle? Councillor Nettle? Councillor Hocking? Councillor Taylor? Councillor Suddards? Councillor Dalton? Councillor Rimmer? Councillor Milosh? Councillor Charleston? Councillor Bolwell? Councillor Rideout? Councillor Podger? Councillor Rogers? Councillor Bevan? Councillor Johnson? Mr. Mayor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing in summing up? It's been quite interesting engaging in this, not being a member of a political party, not least of which because I've never really sat down with anybody and gone through the budget in detail. So a lot of this information has been quite interesting for me. But what I will say is that a lot has been said about how robust this process has been. And there's something that I think we need to acknowledge most of all, and that is within the current team of officers we have, we've got an outstanding finance officer who has enabled us to have the information, and you need the information to make informed decisions, but also I would like to give credit to the officers for the way they manage their individual budgets, because I know there is not pressure, but an expectation that they will try and work efficiently to reduce the amount of expenditure for council taxpayers. And I think they've done that very successfully, as well as generating income. So I think we're looking at a forward-thinking group of officers which have helped the council to thrive. Thank you. Meeting closed.